Doulou Dalu, the power of a book. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 151, You're already thinking about it when I haven't even developed it myself? Su Wen's mouth twitched. These pages are not just simple pages, but are to be used as the basis for constructing a branch of the Mountain of Books and Sea of Knowledge. The Mountain of Books and Sea of Knowledge is not just a simple little light ball like when Su Wen showed it to Xiaozan. It is meant to supply all members of the branch. Now it's another big consumer of soul power. No, this may not be a big consumer of soul power. Compared to this project, what's the burden of the replication spirit skill? Once this project starts, it's going to drain Su Wen completely. I'm afraid even me won't satisfy it. Su Wen fell silent. However, when faced with a problem, one must think of solutions. Especially since Su Wen seems to have the capability to achieve the technology involved in this idea. Moreover, once successful, the entire Wisdom Palace will be established with his martial spirit as the foundation, making it easier for him to collect the power of belief in the future. And if he can create a virtual world based on his myriad of pages, that's another major source of belief. Su Wen is certain that if he can collect belief through this method, he might be faster than the sea god in collecting belief. After all, even though the belief collected by the first-generation sea god was that of the entire sea, the sea is so vast. Su Wen doubts whether the sea god, just by conquering the sea and spreading his belief across the entire ocean, consumed at least 500 or 600 years of his 800 years of life. However, Su Wen is definitely not satisfied with this speed. Becoming a god in 300 years? No, too slow. Su Wen cut off his long-term daydream and began to ponder the problems he was currently facing. Since I can't bear this consumption, let others bear it maintenance, it needs to be carried out by the respective branches of the Wisdom Palace. In this way, it simplifies to fixing my pages and enabling them to absorb external forces to maintain their existence. Thinking of this, Su Wen felt somewhat familiar. Fixing the Mountain of Books and Sea of Knowledge, fixing the summoned pages, being able to absorb external energy and exist for a long time. He seems to have seen a similar ability recently. Fire Seed, condensing the flames into a fire seed, they can exist for a long time. From a different perspective, it's compressing soul power, separating it from oneself while not delaying the recovery of soul power consumed by condensing the fire seed. It's also an alternative method of storing soul power and flames condensed. As long as energy is replenished midway, it should be able to be maintained indefinitely. Uncle Zon, I might not be able to wait for you to develop the secret technique. I need your skills now. Su Wen left the domain of the three magical mountains, the three peaks surrounding the Wisdom Palace, and returned to the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy at Xiaoan. Xiaozan was surprised that Su Wen came at this time. Wasn't it just a short while ago that he said it would take some time to come back? You're supposed to be researching, aren't you? Su Wen, helpless, stated his purpose. My fire seed condensation technique. Upon hearing Su Wen's request, Xiaozan looked speechless. You, kid, I just mentioned the development of my new secret technique, and you're already fixed on it. I'm not interested in your secret technique, Uncle Zon. Well, I am interested in your secret technique, but not right now, Su Wen explained. It's just that I need your fire seed condensation technique for the development of the Mountain of Books and Sea of Knowledge. Xiaozan frowned. My fire seed condensation technique isn't the key. Condensing the fire seed still relies on spirit skills. Although I've been exploring techniques before, I haven't been successful until I finally obtained this spirit skill with the help of the 8th spirit ring. In other words, simply learning the technique won't enable the mastery of this self-created spirit skill. Fire seed type spirit skill can't be self-created? Su Wen carefully considered, and it seemed to be the case. If Xiaozan could develop it himself, there would be no need to waste a slot for the 8th spirit skill. However, if Xiaozan couldn't develop it, it didn't mean, it's definitely not my issue. I've been exploring in this area for over 10 years. With my experience in creating spirit skills, It's impossible for me to be uncertain even about this. Glancing at Su Wen, Xiao Zhan said lightly. He seemed to have grasped Su Wen's thoughts. Su Wen wasn't embarrassed either and quickly thought of a new solution. Xiao Zhan's fire seed type spirit skill glancing at Su is the 8th spirit skill, and Su Wen definitely can't replicate it yet. He has to wait until the 8th ring to unlock it. However, Xiao Ho is only at the 5th ring. Ahem, Uncle Zhan, how about I replicate Sister Huer's martial spirit? When Xiao Zhan remained silent for a long time, neither agreeing nor refusing. Finally, he spoke. Xiao, it's best if fewer people know about your replication spirit skill, although it has flaws, only replicating 70% of the effects of the opponent's martial spirit and spirit skill. But still, it can reveal the effects of someone else's spirit skill. For many spirit masters, spirit skills are quite important assets. Spirit masters who roam the continent mostly keep a trump card up their sleeves, but if their spirit skills are known in advance, many of their backup plans will be exposed. The vast majority of spirit masters wouldn't care whether Su Wen's replication had limitations or flaws, they would only fear Su Wen's replication spirit skill. Of course, if it were to be exposed, it wouldn't really matter. Firstly, there's the issue of limitations. Many spirit masters would only fear it, but upon further thought, they might find it acceptable. Low-level spirit masters rely solely on their spirit skills, with little development. But after reaching spirit saint level, the application of spirit skills becomes paramount. Especially for exceptional individuals like Xiao Zhan and Ho Xianang, their original spirit skills being replicated won't make them vulnerable. Talented spirit masters are the same, most will train their control over spirit skills and have some development. Those who truly fear the replication spirit skill are only the mediocre low-level spirit masters. Especially those popular spirit skills that can be used once replicated. This is also why Su Wen didn't completely seal off replication as if it were a treasure. Of course, it's still better not to expose it to the outside world if possible, as it can reduce a lot of trouble. Don't worry, Uncle Zhan, I still know what's important. Well, when you reach Spirit Saint on your own, it won't really matter whether you reveal it or not. Xiao Zhan nodded. Strength is fundamental. If she doesn't mind, it's fine for you to replicate her. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 152, 2 Directions for Developing Fire Seeds. Su Wen approached Xiao Ho and requested a drop of fresh blood, replicating her Cyan Lotus Jade Fire Martial Spirit. Instead of leaving immediately, he discussed with Xiao Zhan about the development direction of fire seeds. Uncle Zhan, the outbreak of a fire seed is simply about enabling you to erupt faster and consume less. I think you can try condensing different fire seeds, and then use the greater collision between different fire seeds to unleash power. Su Wen suggested. Xiao Zhan responded that he had responded to this idea, but had not yet developed it. Fireball collisions can erupt with greater force, and naturally, I thought of the possibility of collisions between fire seeds. Upon hearing Xiao Zhan's words, Su Wen had nothing further to add. Regarding the development of fire seeds, Xiao Zhan not only had ideas for state-based enhancements, but also for a direction focused on complete one-time eruptions. In Su Wen's mind, 2 names came up. Skyfire 3 Mysterious Changes and Angry Buddha Lotus Flame. Perhaps due to the quality of the fire seeds, the power might have a huge gap compared to the 2 Dao techniques Su Wen knew, but it could not be denied that the development potential in these 2 directions was high. Moreover, fire seeds are actually a bridge between the outside world and the heavens and earth. Su Wen expressed some of his insights. With his tasks being numerous enough, Su Wen decided to leave many ideas to Xiao Zhan to implement at this time. Then, he would directly learn once the finished product was produced, which would be more efficient. During the process of condensing fire seeds, external energy can be mixed in, with the integration of the Spirit Master's own soul power. The fire seeds can still be enhanced according to the enhancement concept of the Spirit Master itself, but with an additional source of energy, similar to the brilliant sun within the fiery heavenly sun domain, which can absorb external energy and integrate it into the domain. This fire seed can also absorb heaven and earth energy from the outside to replenish consumed energy, thus providing long-term support for the Spirit Master. Of course, this is only the most basic. Su Wen instructed Xiao Zhan to develop in this direction, fundamentally aiming to utilize the fire seed as a spirit skill to achieve the fusion of Xiao Zhan's soul power with various external energies. Controlling the forces of heaven and earth is the true essence of cultivation in the later stages. Individual strength may be formidable, but it is not as quick to develop as domains attempting to master the forces of heaven and earth. Spirit masters in the Douluo continent haven't excelled in this aspect of cultivation. And this is also Su Wen's opportunity. Currently, spirit masters on the continent only use the forces of heaven and earth within there, without realizing that the true power of the domain lies in the utilization of the forces of heaven and earth. Su Wen's perspective once again enlightened Xiao Zun, making him feel that he had found a new direction for cultivation. After explaining his ideas to Xiao Zun, Su Wen finally left the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy. Back at the Three Magical Mountains, watching Wisdom Palace slowly taking shape, Su Wen also pondered over the Jade Spirit Fire Seed, comprehending the techniques of soul power condensation within it, gradually transferring these techniques onto his own condensation of pages. 1 month later, Wisdom Palace was still under construction. It's finally successful. Su Wen felt excited. He looked at the pages he had condensed in front of him, within which seemed to be a small space. This was an illusion. Su Wen hadn't reached the level of control of the fifth spirit skill to casually create a space to be carried on a page. However, even so, his illusion space was still quite clever, can also be sustained by external energy. Another page flew out, and Su Wen quickly used this extra page to establish a connection with another page. Not bad, not bad, I'm truly a genius. Su Wen stood with his hands on his hips, feeling extremely proud. Now, the basic technology of the virtual world had been developed. Next is to extend the distance at which two pages can establish a connection as much as possible. When the mountain of books and sea of knowledge was put into practical use, it wouldn't be connections as close as those currently in front of Su Wen, but rather separated by hundreds of. Should I use a new spirit ring to achieve this? Su Wen frowned. He quickly dismissed the idea. He couldn't lose sight of his priorities. Developing Wisdom Palace was for better cultivation, not to tailor his cultivation path to fit the plan of Wisdom Palace. With my current conditions, the best way to enhance this aspect of ability is actually with the third spirit ring. Are you going for training? Ning Fengzi was puzzled. With only 1 year left until the Spirit Master competition, this is the sprint period. Isn't it a bit late to go out for training now? Moreover, didn't they already conduct spirit fighter training in various major cities before? And why did Su Wen come to him, Ning Fengzi, to report his intention to go for training? Uncle Ning, don't I need a little support from the 7 treasure glazed tile sect for this? Su Wen chuckled. What information do you want? Information about these 3 types of spirit beasts. Information about spirit beasts. Ning Fengzi frowned, his expression becoming even more exaggerated as Su Wen finished mentioning the 3 types of spirit beasts. Xiao, if I remember correctly, your first ring comes from the Starlight Fruit Tree. Right, the first spirit ring is Starlight Fruit Tree, the second is Phantom Fox, and the third is Stone Monster. The 3 types of spirit beasts Su Wen mentioned are exactly these 3 types of spirit beasts. And Su Wen wants the whereabouts of individual specimens of these 3 types of spirit beasts at the 1000-year level. No wonder Ning Fengzi is puzzled. He really doesn't understand the significance of this request. You wouldn't want to hunt down these spirit beasts to absorb their corresponding spirit bones, would you? Ning Fengzi had heard that Su Wen didn't want to casually absorb spirit bones, fearing conflicts within the body, so he thought Su Wen wanted to use the relationship between spirit rings and spirit bones of the same kind of spirit beasts to resolve it. Uncle Ning, definitely not. Even the probability of a 1000-year-old spirit beast producing a spirit bone is low. Ning Fengzi nodded and said, that makes sense. Sect doesn't know much about them. The sect knows the whereabouts of a 9000-year-old Starlight Fruit Tree. You can go and take a look. As for phantom foxes, I remember there are 1000-year-old 3-eyed phantom foxes in the Star Dao Great Forest. And the sect has records of them. As for stone monsters, the sect doesn't have any records. Su Wen also knew that the 7 treasure glazed tile sect couldn't possibly know everything, so getting some information was already satisfactory. Uncle Ning, this is enough. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 153, Ring Replacement begins. Su Wen was quite satisfied to obtain this information from the 7 treasure glazed tile sect. To think there's a direct trace of a 10,000-year-old 3-eyed phantom fox, this was something Su Wen hadn't anticipated. Although it was known that a significant portion of phantom foxes reaching the 10,000-year level were mutated, the proportion occupied by the variant branch of the 3-eyed phantom fox was actually only around 1/10 or 1/12. Since it was uncertain whether ordinary phantom foxes could help him complete the ring replacement, Su Wen still leaned towards selecting a new to three-eyed phantom fox. There's only information on a 9,000-year-old Starlight Fruit Tree, and it's still uncertain whether it was killed by another spirit master, but at least there's a direction. As for the stone monsters, there seem to be extremely old ones in the Sunset Forest. Su Wen remembered Douluo mentioning encountering a 30,000-year-old stone monster in the Sunset Forest, and there might be even older ones deeper inside, possibly over 50,000 years old. Before leaving the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect, Su Wen also inquired about the cultivation of individuals of these three types of spirit beasts, roughly around 1,000 years. Back in Heaven Dao City, Su Wen informed Xiaozan and Douluo of his plan to travel. They didn't try to dissuade him. They were aware of Su Wen's alternative mimicry cultivation method, and they understood that traveling at this time was more like a final push. Of course, letting Su Wen go with peace of mind was also because Su Wen now had the power to protect himself. Being a spirit king already placed him in the middle to high tier of power across the continent, and coupled with Su Wen's strength, he could even withstand encounters with spirit emperors. Moreover, he also mastered the fifth spirit skill, Void Shuttle, so even if he encountered unbeatable enemies, he could escape. Upon leaving Heaven Dao City, Su Wen did not immediately head to the Sunset Forest. Stone monsters in the Sunset Forest live in groups, and Douluo hadn't figured out why, so it was safer not to rush into the depths to search for 10,000-year-old stone monsters. Su Wen didn't want others to know about the process of ring replacement for now. So he had to hunting tri-spirit beasts on his own, and he estimated that the maximum age of spirit beasts he could hunt alone now was around 20,000 years. Departing from Heaven Dao City, he headed straight for the Star Dao Great Forest. Half a month later, on the outskirts of the Star Dao Great Forest, Su Wen entered the Star Dao Great Forest from Starfall Village in the southeast direction of the forest. Let's try the ring replacement with lower-aged spirit beasts first. On the outskirts, Su Wen searched for the location of the Starlight Fruit Tree he knew. Starlight Fruit Tree, he discovered three guarding spirit beasts around it, originally ordinary iron rhinos, but now they appear completely different from regular iron rhinos. So, this is the effect of the Starlight Fruit. The Starlight Fruit Tree absorbed the power of the stars, which, while ferocious, also had a tempering effect on the physique. However, directly absorbing this force into the body would cause severe damage, and even spirit beasts rarely absorb the power of the stars directly for body tempering. Starlight Fruit. Gradually refining it until the Starlight Fruit fell off. Even if only the residual bits of stellar power remained, it still had a good effect on spirit beasts like the iron rhino. So, they were willing to guard outside the Starlight Fruit Tree. However, at this moment, the terrifying aura emanating from the detestable human across from them was too much independently. Feeling the oppressive soul power from Su Wen, the three guarding iron rhinos fled directly. Su Wen shook his head, paying no attention to them. He looked at the Starlight Fruit Tree before him, his eyes reflecting the starlight emanating from it. When the first spirit ring absorbed the Starlight Fruit Tree, I was only concerned with enhancing my martial spirit as much as possible, and I didn't spare any extra energy to consider this stellar attribute. Among spirit beasts, only top-tier spirit beasts could digest stellar power. Either their physical bodies were incredibly strong, allowing them to forcibly temper themselves with stellar power, or they possess stellar attributes like the Starlight Fruit Tree, capable of attracting and slowly refining stellar power on their own. This ring replacement is my chance. Su Wen only had 9 opportunities for spirit rings. And each time he absorbed the spirit ring, he also needed to make choices, selecting the most suitable direction for himself, guiding the spirit ring to transform his martial spirit in the most appropriate way. However, with the ring replacement method, Su Wen would have the opportunity to absorb more of the characteristics of the species of his 9 major spirit rings in the future, for everything is for cultivation. For the sake of cultivating, hunting spirit beasts was only natural. Su Wen had no feelings of guilt whatsoever. The wind barrier around Su Wen's body. Bang! The Rasengan erupted, piercing through the entire branch. A ring of purple spirit slowly floated out. Su Wen sat cross-legged on the ground, pondering the essence of his martial spirit and spirit ring. The first spirit ring, explode. He detonated the first spirit ring, with its soul power merging into Su Wen's body. Though the enhancement from the mere 300-year-old first spirit ring wasn't very significant. This time, it wasn't just the spirit ring exploding. Su Wen used the most brute force method, Without employing the techniques of the ring explosion secret technique, he even exploded the essence of the first spirit ring. The third spirit skill came into play. This was the core of the ring replacement method, something Su Wen could only achieve after developing the third spirit skill to stabilize his martial spirit and spirit ring essence. The second, third, fourth, and fifth spirit rings were linked, supporting Su Wen's martial spirit from collapsing. Since the first spirit ring was only 100 years old, the damage to Su Wen's martial spirit after its explosion was minimal at this moment. Su Wen easily stabilized the collapse of his martial spirit. Outside, the 2,000-year-old Starlight Fruit Tree's spirit ring slowly enveloped Su Wen. The soul power of the spirit ring surged within him, and a stream of spirit ring essence rushed into his martial spirit space. Unlike the normal process of refining spirit rings, at this moment, this stream of spirit ring essence didn't spontaneously start transforming Su Wen's martial spirit. Instead, it seemed a bit dazed and unsure of what to do. It looked clumsy. Even though there is a vacant spirit ring position, it didn't automatically integrate itself into it at this time. Even the vacant position left by spirit rings of the same species seemed unable to attract it to integrate again. Su Wen wasn't in a hurry, he was experimenting as well. Guiding the spirit ring essence to merge into the vacant spirit ring position with the source soul power, Su Wen also felt a sense of rejection. However, through his heightened perception, he could sense that while being rejected, the spirit ring essence was slowly merging into the spirit ring position, the innate talent of heightened perception, and after absorbing the fifth spirit ring, he evolved to have a comprehensive perception of himself. Otherwise, a normal spirit master wouldn't be able to sense this slightest change. Indeed, it's not that simple. However, Su Wen had a plan long ago too. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 154, Wicked Thoughts. For a normal spirit master, even if one spirit ring explodes and the martial spirit doesn't collapse, there would still be a strong rejection when trying to absorb a new spirit ring. Even if choosing the same type of spirit ring and there is no strong rejection, forcibly integrating the spirit ring would not show any changes. However, Su Wen can perceive this progress. So, even if it takes time, he can persist and allow the essence of this new spirit ring to merge into his spirit ring position. However, this is in the starred out great position. Forest. Su Wen operates the soul power from the 2,000-year Starlight Fruit Tree spirit ring within his body, as well as the soul power that filled his body after the previous ring explosion. He strives to facilitate the fusion of the two types of soul power according to the route he has developed. Through the fusion of soul power, he promotes the fusion of the original aura of the first spirit ring remaining in the spirit ring position with the current essence of the new spirit ring. After all, they are of the same family. An hour later, Su Wen completed the fusion of the new spirit ring position, not merely providing energy, not a significant drain. Ring replacement successful. Su Wen looked at his 3 purple, 2 black spirit rings, revealing a smile. Above the summoned heavenly book, there were faint starlights gathering, but these starlights were too sparse. I should also have hope of obtaining the star attribute, but these 2,000-year-old spirit rings are still not severe enough for me now. With the success of the first attempt, Su Wen began to continue searching for the whereabouts of the Starlight Fruit Tree and the 3-eyed phantom fox in the starred out great forest. After the 2,000-year Starlight Fruit Tree, Su Wen did not rush to find the 10,000-year level 3-eyed phantom fox or the 9,000-year Starlight Fruit Tree. He first found a 3-eyed phantom fox of about 5,000 years and completed the ring replacement. The explosion of the spirit ring essence does have an impact on the martial spirit. Although the success of the first attempt certainly indicates that Su Wen's method is not wrong, one of the key points, stabilizing the martial spirit while the spirit ring essence explodes, did not pose too great a challenge for him. He also dared not be too careless. So, he prepared to proceed gradually. The second spirit ring was replaced with a 5,000-year one before Su Wen went to search for the 9,000-year Starlight Fruit Tree months. His first spirit ring was successfully replaced with that 9,000-year Starlight Fruit Tree, and the second spirit ring was also replaced with a 15,000-year one. 2.5 months, quite a fruitful harvest. Not only was the ring replacement of the spirit rings successful, but Su Wen also improved the ring replacement method through multiple practices, turning pure ring replacement into fusion. Just need to explode the spirit ring without needing to explode the spirit ring essence. There is also hope to fuse a new spirit ring of the same type again. In doing so, There was no need to stabilize the essence of the martial spirit and the spirit ring essence, but Su Wen needed to stabilize himself and the martial spirit space. Because without a vacant spirit ring position, incorporating the new spirit ring into the martial spirit space would generate strong rejection. Su Wen's solution was to explode part of the original spirit ring essence, leaving the spirit ring position in a semi-vacant state, reducing some of the rejection. In fact, exploding part of the new spirit ring's essence could also reduce rejection, but what he wanted was the age of the new spirit ring, so naturally, he wouldn't choose this method. From complete ring replacement to fusion of essence, since ring replacement could already be successful, Su Wen spent more effort perfecting it to the point of essence fusion, naturally considering the future threesome spirit beasts are truly rare. The stone monster is one thing, although rare, Su Wen knows about the stone monster tribe in the Sunset Forest. But the void silver moon tapir is truly rare. Su Wen is not even sure which corner of the continent might still hide void silver moon tapirs of higher ages. Actually, the stone monster is not enough. Su Wen's goal is not simply to obtain all 10,000-year-old spirit rings. So, he also considers 100,000 years. However, finding 100,000-year-old stone monsters, 100,000-year-old starlight fruit trees, and 100,000-year-old three-eyed phantom foxes is basically impossible. Fusion of essence is just one part of the perfecting process of the ring replacement method. It would be best if I could find the part within the spirit ring essence that determines the age of the spirit ring, and to find this, the fastest way is not for Su Wen to continue fusion of essence like this. Even with super strong perception, Su Wen cannot find this decisive part by comparing changes in the spirit ring essence. After all, he is only aiming to increase the age of the spirit ring, and the number of times he experiences this process is limited. Unlike exploring and developing techniques, where countless attempts are made, adjusting each time to achieve one's goal. My current goal is to find a spirit beast with devouring ability and then study its ability, devouring other spirit beasts to enhance one's own cultivation. Isn't this essentially digesting others' cultivation to improve oneself? Su Wen feels that by doing so, he should be able to quickly find the most essential part that determines the age of a spirit beast's cultivation. Naturally, what determines its age is its essence, but which specific part of the essence? Since there are devouring-type spirit beasts that can indiscriminately devour various spirit beasts, if Su Wen can find the corresponding part within the essence, can he remove the restriction of devouring only similar spirit beasts? Hey, I feel like I'm becoming a bit wicked, Su Wen grinned, feeling somewhat obsessed. He even gave himself a healthy laughter. However, without considering the divine examination, it seems that this is the only way he can enhance his strength. Unless I can find alternative energy sources, such as the energy used to enhance spirit rings in the divine examination, otherwise, I can only become an object of hate for spirit beasts. Su Wen chuckled at himself. However, he didn't feel burdened by it. Firstly, all this was for his own cultivation, so he didn't need to advocate too strongly for spirit beasts. Secondly, he actually had a plan for an alternative energy sources. In the original work, Tang San used the blue-silver domain to absorb the soul power of Sunset Forest's blue-silver grass and infused it into Ayin's body, rapidly increasing her cultivation, although Ayin herself had 100,000-year foundation and sufficient soul power, which was piled up for her. The part of energy within her essence ultimately transformed into Tang Hao's 100,000-year-old spirit ring. Therefore, there must have been special energy in this process to compensate for this. So, the ice and fire yin-yang well actually emits this type of energy. In fact, as long as it's life energy, it can promote the increase of spirit beast's age limit, but what I need is to find the more accurate part. Su Wen shook his head, pulling himself out of this issue. In a state of obsession, it's easy to become paranoid when thinking. He left the starred-out Great Forest. Su Wen's demeanor underwent a significant change. More otherworldly, emanating a subtle sense of depth. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 155, How will you respond? In the short term, Su Wen's spirit ring replacement only has the third ring left. He's not in a hurry. Coming out of the starred-out Great Forest, he plans to rest for a day in Starfall Village before embarking on training in the surrounding areas. He can return to Heaven Dao City for the Spirit Master competition, which is enough time for him to handle the replacement of the Stone Monster Spirit Ring. Starfall Village. Su Wen's demeanor attracts the attention of many. Among the Spirit Masters returning from the starred-out Great Forest, There is no one like him. He's not covered in rags, nor does he have traces of mud. His aura is stable, and most importantly, he exudes an ethereal quality, as if he had just taken a leisurely stroll through the starred-out great forest. Sir, would you like to stay at the inn? Su Wen nodded and instructed, arrange a quiet room for me. Taking a gold spirit coin handed over by Su Wen, the waiter happily led him to a well-appointed guest room. The effects of ring replacement are obvious. My second spirit skill has improved, and the enhancement of the first spirit skill is even greater. The range and intensity of the second spirit skill's control have also greatly increased. Su Wen experienced his own changes, pondering the direction of his spirit skill development in the coming period. Various ideas flash through his mind as time quietly passes. Night falls. Su Wen arrived at a small hill at the edge of the village. No wonder it's called Starfall Village. Looking up, the stars twinkle, gathering into streams of starlight that fall upon the entire village, outlining a magnificent scene. If there were spirit masters with star attribute, this would probably be a very good natural mimicry training environment. This small village outside the starred-out great forest has an excellent geographical location, able to draw out countless starlights. Perhaps it's related to the terrain here, Su Wen speculated. At the same time, he felt a bit itchy in his heart-body tempering in practice, and I can also use it to improve my visualization technique, whether it's recording the terrain he's interested in or practicing with the power of the stars to perfect his visualization technique. It all requires time. Su Wen decided to practice in the Starfall Village for a while. And this practice lasted almost a month. My soul power has broken through. Su Wen opened his eyes, and there were stars shimmering and circulating in his eyes, as if reflecting a starry sky. After absorbing the spirit ring of the void silver moon taper, Su Wen's soul power reached level 53. Then, after a month of training in the Flame Mountain Range and another month in the Three Magical Mountains, and then about 2 months later when he replaced the second ring with the 5,000-year three-eyed phantom foxes, Su Wen broke through to level 55. Fall Village, Su Wen's soul power broke through again. Level finally. Before leaving, there's one more thing to do. Su Wen is very lucky. During this month, he witnessed the awakening of the new generation of martial spirits in Starfall Village. And today, among the children of Starfall Village, a genius with full innate soul power awakened. Morning Star Sword. Since the innate full soul power awakening happened right under his nose, Su Wen naturally wouldn't miss out on this genius small earthen house. Many spirit masters had already gathered. Ever since martial spirits awakened, the threshold of the Yi family had almost been trampled. Starfall Village itself is located outside the starred-out great forest, attracting many spirit masters back and forth. Hearing about the awakening of a genius with innate full soul power, they immediately came over out of curiosity to invite. Although some spirit masters didn't have any backing, they didn't mind taking in a child with innate full soul power at this moment. However, Yi Luochen was also very clever and did not accept any offers from anyone. The only one he currently briefly acknowledges is the deacon from the spirit hall responsible for his martial spirit awakening. It's precisely because the spirit hall deacon has been a frequent guest here that these spirit masters can consider demolishing the Yi family, and it's impossible for Yi Luochen to be forcibly taken away. Su Wen's arrival attracted many people's attention. Having spent some time in Starfall Village, the villagers here all know him. While some new faces might not recognize Su Wen, they can still feel his powerful soul power. A spirit elder dressed in spirit hall deacon attire looked at Su Wen, furrowing his brow. I am Chang Yuan, the child spirit hall deacon from Liao Yuan City's spirit hall. Brother, are you also here for Luochen, Falling Star? Sensing Su Wen's oppressive soul power, he knew he was no match for the young man before him. At the same time, he began to speculate about Su Wen's background. To be able to exert such pressure on this spirit elder at less than 20 years old is frightening. Luochen? That's a nice name, Su Wen chuckled. Inside the house, Yi Luochen's gaze fell on Su Wen, feeling inexplicably close to him. Meanwhile, Yi Luochen's father grinned broadly because he was the one who named Yi Luochen initially. When this child was born, there was a shooting star in the sky, hence the name Luochen. Su Wen nodded, looking at Chang Yuan in front of him. Spirit Hall shouldn't force every spirit master to join, right? Chang Yuan replied. Brother, after Luochen's martial spirit awakened, our hall master in Liao Yuan City's child spirit hall has already been informed and intends to personally take him as his disciple. Oh, Su Wen's lips curled up. In that case, Do you think I have the qualifications to compete for this child's allegiance now? As he spoke, concentric circles of spirit rings began to expand outward from his body. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black. A 5-ring spirit king. And it's the best spirit ring match. Chang Yuan was shaken inwardly. He took a deep breath and clasped his fists, saying, "My apologies for the suddenness. It's just that our hall master has already prepared to help Liu Chen make an application. He can directly enter the Spirit City Spirit Master Academy, where the continent's top Spirit Master geniuses and corresponding experts gather, innate full soul power. Moreover, the martial spirit is the Morning Star Sword, undoubtedly an attack martial spirit. Such a genius, if missed, even if he doesn't need to bear any responsibility, the loss of reward alone could have a huge impact on his future. So, he still needs to strive for it based on reason." His words seem to be directed at Su Wen, but they are also telling Yi Luochen that joining the spirit hall can provide the best cultivation. Su Wen smiled. "I've been waiting for you to lead me out." He took out a token, made entirely of jade, with a radiant aura and intricate carvings of various treasures, all crystal clear. Most importantly, the entire token took the shape of the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda. What if I said I could directly let him follow Sword Douluo for cultivation? 3. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156, 5 Elements Spear Lindong. Chang Yuan was shaken inwardly. Looking at the token Su Wen took out, although he had never seen it before, he could guess its meaning. Guest Elder of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Sect. This was the token Ning Fengzi gave to Su Wen's convenience when traveling outside. And what Su Wen said was indeed a condition he could never fulfill no matter what. Sword Douluo. Among the current title Douluo and Douluo land, there were only a few Super Douluo, and among them, there were a total of 6 title Douluo carved on the hand token by the Spirit Hall, and Sword Douluo was one of them. Throughout the entire continent, if you were to ask who was the most qualified to teach a sword spirit master with innate full soul power, it would undoubtedly be Sword Douluo. Unexpectedly, "You are from the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Sect," Chang Yuan said in a deep voice. Title Douluo. Upon hearing the title of Sword Douluo, the surrounding spirit masters were shocked. They couldn't believe that Su Wen had a title Douluo behind him. In that case, the affiliation of this year Luochen obviously was decided. Moreover, Su Wen was not just backed by Sword Douluo, but by the entire 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Sect. Su Wen glanced at Yi Luochen inside the house. "Your name is Yi Luochen, right? How about it, do you want to come with me? Although I won't let you join the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Sect, I can guarantee that you can practice under Sword Douluo," Su Wen said in advance, not allowing Yi Luochen to join the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Sect. However, it was obvious that just practicing under Sword Douluo was tempting enough for Yi Luochen. "Elder, I'm willing," he didn't even need any consideration. Sword Douluo. Title Douluo, that was the pinnacle of the entire continent. And being titled with a sword, he must be the strongest among all the sword martial spirits on the entire continent. "Well, good," Su Wen nodded, indicating that Yi Luochen's choice was very correct. "Since you have innate full soul power, let's first get your first spirit ring." Su Wen said so, but he didn't intend to take Yi Luochen with him to hunt spirit beasts. Firstly, when it came to the cultivation and development of a sword martial spirit, he might not necessarily have more knowledge than Sword Douluo. So he decided to let Sword Douluo handle it himself. So, he sent a message to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Sect to notify Sword Douluo. He himself continued to stay in Starfall Village for another half a month. "Grandpa Sword, Luochen has already joined our Wisdom Palace, and I plan to hand over the Law Enforcement Hall to him when he becomes a spirit ancestor," Su Wen explained first, stating that Yi Luochen had joined the Wisdom Palace. Of course, Su Wen wasn't very concerned about whether he would join the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Sect again. As long as Yi Luochen wouldn't hinder the work of the Law Enforcement Hall when he took over in the future, he wouldn't forcefully stop him. Chen Xin nodded, not concerned about this point. Being able to accept a disciple with innate full soul power was already enough. Although innate full soul power couldn't guarantee becoming a title Douluo, There was no doubt that it put one at the forefront of the starting line for spirit masters on the continent. Sufficient opportunities, titled Douluo, was also possible. And Shenzhen didn't think he couldn't teach the other party well or provide the best growth environment. He also firmly believed that as long as he guided Yi Luqian, he would inevitably become the new sword Douluo in the future. Alright, Xiaoan, can you handle this for me? Shenzhen took out a piece of golden viscous crystal. Whale glue? Su Wen couldn't help but marvel at the channels of the 7 treasure glazed tile sect. This piece of whale glue should be close to 1,000 years old. It's not that the older the whale glue, the better. A 6-year-old Yi Luqian couldn't withstand the medicinal power of a 10,000-year-old whale glue to consume whale glue of around 3,000 to 5,000 years. Then stabilizing the second ring for 1,000 years should be achievable too, of course. Nowadays, there are very few spirit masters on the continent who know the effect of whale glue, making it relatively easy to collect. Moreover, the price is not unreasonable. Therefore, the 7 treasure glazed tile sect has hope of collecting it in this manner. If the effect of whale glue were to be exposed, the difficulty of collecting it by the 7 treasures glazed tile sect would increase significantly. Su Wen released a ball of flames, softening the whale glue, and handed it to Yi Luqian. Eat this, it's good for you. Remember to endure the flames inside your body, Su Wen advised. Yes, over the past half-month, Su Wen occasionally taught Yi Luqian some things, and Yi Luqian had a basic trust in Su Wen. He took the whale glue and swallowed it. Grandpa Sword, I'll continue traveling now. Leaving Starfall Village, Su Wen navigated around the mountainous terrain, beginning to record the terrain of various places. He found himself enjoying the process of recording the vastness of nature, and such a process had multiple benefits for him. Not only could it relax his mind and broaden his horizons, but it was also conducive to cultivation. Furthermore, it could promote his contemplation and even contribute to the development of his spirit skills. 2.5 months later. In Qingyang City. I heard Lindong got beaten up again. This brother, if I'm not mistaken, the Lindong you're talking about is Lindong, the son of Fire Spear Lin Xiao, right? Yes, brother, let me correct you, it should be son, too. Oh right, it should indeed be son. He's been beaten up for the 4th time this month. Tisk, the son of the prestigious Fire Spear. I never expected his martial spirit to undergo mutation. It's one thing to have poor talent, but to be so arrogant that he can't even face reality is ridiculous. Su Wen wasn't interested in gossip. Unless the gossip came to him. He walked the streets of Qingyang City, listening to the discussions about Lindong around him. Sigh, it's also a pity for Lindong. Clearly, his talent is not bad. I heard he started practicing with spears at the age of 3, mastered spearplay at the age of 5, and before he turned 6, he reportedly defeated a spirit grandmaster purely in spear skills. Who would have thought his martial spirit wouldn't live up to it? Maybe it's because of his dad's reputation with the fire spear. Exactly, defeating a spirit grandmaster with spear skills at the age of 6, just listening to it is enough, yet some people actually believe it. Su Wen didn't waste time listening to gossip. Passing by Qingyang City Square, he suddenly heard an argument. He looked at 2 teenagers on the square, one of whom had a faint shadow of a fiery lion behind him, emitting the aura of flames. HMPH, Lindong, still haven't come to terms with reality? You're just a waste with only 1st level innate soul power, Lindong? Su Wen had just heard the gossip, but he didn't expect to witness it firsthand now. Nonsense, come and fight me again. Lindong wielded a dark yellow long spear and lunged forward. The fight between the two was not simply Lindong being beaten up. It was just that the gap in soul power put Lindong at a disadvantage. Su Wen's gaze fluctuated. 5 elements, he sensed the fluctuations of the 5 elements on Lindong's dark yellow long spear. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth. All 5 attributes were present. However, they were very weak. Even when driven by soul power, Lindong's long spear was only comparable to an ordinary refined iron long spear, and it didn't provide any enhancement to the physique. That's why he repeatedly suffered losses against another teenager whose soul power fluctuation was at level 7. In terms of technique, Lindong's spear skills indeed had their own unique style. Su Wen became interested and watched the battle from the edge of the square. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 157, Book of 10,000 Techniques. Good talent. After watching this battle, Su Wen made a comment. He has a talent in insight, or rather, in the use of martial spirit and soul power. In other words, he has a talent for creating spirit skills. Unfortunately, his 5 elements attribute is not strong. Otherwise, the elemental power mixed in his spear technique would be stronger, and he would have more power, innate level 1 soul power. As the offspring of a spirit king, the mutation of this martial spirit is, however, it has all 5 elements, and it seems to have a kind of ability to nurture each other, with a relatively balanced distribution of the 5 attributes. From another perspective, this is also a kind of talent. It's still lacking a bit. Back at the Lin family, Lindong returned to his own courtyard, holding a long spear and continuously stabbing the target in front of him, each stab hitting precisely at vital points. The tip of the spear trembled, yet it always managed to pierce where he intended at the last moment. He ventured his dissatisfaction with himself. My soul power is too weak, he realized this, but with his innate level 1 soul power, he was destined not to go far in soul power, so he could only try to make up for it as much as possible in his spear technique. Danger, a burly middle-aged man arrived behind Lindong, calling out. Only then did Lindong realize that his father had arrived. Father, he said with a hint of guilt, didn't feel that Lindong had done anything wrong. Danger, don't burden yourself psychologically, he said, patting Lindong's shoulder. Lindong lowered his head, his eyes still filled with unwillingness. With an innate level 1 soul power, the usual limit is around level 29. It's very difficult to break through level 30. Even if by some stroke of luck one breaks through, they can never reach the level of a spirit ancestor. Not to mention the levels of Spirit King and even higher levels like Spirit Emperor. And it's very likely that even Spirit Elders may not have hope until they reach middle age. For the proud Lindong, this was indeed a torment. After Lin Xiao left, Lindong stood alone in the courtyard for a long time. His unwillingness didn't turn into calmness, but instead into firm determination. He didn't pick up the long spear on the ground. It's still too weak, as for now, due to the inherently low degree of control. Even if the progress is not low, the displayed power is much smaller. Lindong didn't know how many spears he had thrust out, exhausting his trained soul power. He only swung his 5-element spear, searching for the feeling of the spear sweeping through the air, feeling the sensation of the spear tip containing flames. At the point of exhaustion, his consciousness became blurred. Feeling somewhat lost. It's still not enough. Suddenly, his pupils contracted sharply as he watched something flying towards him from afar, unable to dodge. He couldn't even swing the long spear in his hand, unable to move his body, only able to watch helplessly as the thing came crashing down. It was a book. Lindong was knocked unconscious. When he woke up again, he found that there was an extra book in his danshan, a book called The Book of 10,000 Techniques. Of 10,000 techniques, 3 leaving Qinyang City, Su Wen continued his journey. A month later, he returned to Heavendao City. Stone Monster Tribe, hearing Su Wen's question, Douluo frowned. Reminiscent of Ningfeng's reaction when he heard Su Wen inquire about the 3 types of spirit beasts. You want to provoke those stone monsters? There was a hint of fear in Douluo's eyes. I can assure you, even the oldest stone monster in the depths of Sunset Forest is only 60,000 years old. But there are 2 other stone monsters that are 50,000 years old. The 3 stone monsters can execute combination techniques between them. Their combined strength is something even I dare not provoke. Douluo said this obviously from experience with those 3 stone monsters. He looked at Su Wen. Do you still want to provoke the stone monster tribe? Su Wen nodded, showing no signs of backing down. The reason why humans are humans is because they are good at using their brains and utilizing tools. Just like how Su Wen was able to single-handedly kill a 1,000-year-old 3-eyed phantom fox at level 20 in the past. Now, if he doesn't talk about killing those 3 stone monsters that exceed the standard, there is still hope if he only kills 1 or 2 stone monsters that are 10 or 20,000 years old too. Seeing this, Douluo no longer dissuaded him. Do you need my help? Douluo asked. Su Wen shook his head. He didn't want to reveal the ring replacement method to the outside world for the time being. As the saying goes, there are some things he can spread, even spread them for free, but everything has to be after he has established his own advantage using these theories. He doesn't mind helping others, but his own interests cannot be compromised. Moreover, the ring replacement method is not something that can be passed on like other theories and techniques Su Wen has developed. First of all, it requires perception of the martial spirit space, which not everyone can do. Of abilities, at the very least, one must, like Su Wen, Choose a combination type spirit skill and develop it to a level where it can stabilize the martial spirit and spirit ring essence. Moreover, seemingly just the ring replacement, isn't it also a test for spirit masters each time? Even for a twin martial spirit, there are risks in attaching spirit rings to both martial spirits. For a spirit master with a single martial spirit to attach spirit rings that could surpass the limit, how could there not be risks? 1 Sunset Forest. Su Wen arrived at the former Blue Tyrant Academy has been renamed Shrek Academy. Flender serves as the dean, Liu Erlong and Zhao Wuji as vice deans, Yu Ziagang as a special faculty member, and the original Shrek team members are all high-level teachers. Mu Bei, still unable to break through to Spirit Ancestor, after the battle, Grandmaster looked at Mu Bei, inquiring about his recent training progress. Mu Bei sighed and shook his head. Breaking through the bottleneck at level 40 is too difficult. Grandmaster frowned and sighed. It's okay, you're still young. If it doesn't work out this time, there's always the next Spirit Master competition. In the next competition, the Shrek 7 Devils will surely all reach Spirit Ancestor level, and there's even hope to push for Spirit King. Grandmaster understood that he was being too hasty. But whenever he thought about the lineup of the Emperor fighting team, or Su Wen's level of soul power, he couldn't help but feel restless. How does he train? If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 158, This Spirit Master is Too Trash. Back in Suachuo City, Su Wen had already reached level 40. And at that time, Su Wen was only 14 years old. Grandmaster couldn't even guarantee that his disciple Tang San would break through to Spirit Ancestor at the age of 14. To be precise, he couldn't guarantee being faster than Su Wen 1 year. Now, with 3 months left until Tang San turns 14, his soul power is only at level 38. Breaking through to level 39 before the age of 14 would already be considered a success. And crossing the threshold from level 39 to level 40, according to Mu Bei's words, Tang San might also likely be stuck for at least half a year. Moreover, what's even more worrying is that Su Wen's innate soul power is only at level 5. When Su Wen graduated early in Nuoding City years ago, he was only 10 years old, and his soul power was far inferior to Tang San's. But in just a few short years, Su Wen underwent an unimaginable qualitative change. Grandmaster had always been curious, but unfortunately had no reason to approach Su Wen or confidence to extract information from him. Mu Bei, for the final 3 months, focus on closed-door cultivation and strive to break through to level 40. Ziaizhen, and the rest of you, make every effort to improve by 1 level in these last 3 months, especially you, Ziaizhen. Your soul power node is crucial. Breaking through to level 39 before the Spirit Master competition, and utilizing the high-frequency battles of the competition for tempering, you might have a chance to break through to Spirit Ancestor with the pressure of the competition. This is currently the only way for you to rapidly break through to Spirit Ancestor. Boom. Having absorbed the Stone Monster Spirit Ring and gained some understanding of the Stone Monster Spirit skill, Su Wen naturally was familiar with the weaknesses of this type of spirit beast. In particular, he mastered the Void Shuttle Spirit skill, which allowed him to attack directly through space at its weakest points. With a Recentrican combined with spatial penetration, Su Wen could be said to be constantly launching fatal attacks against the Stone Monster. Meanwhile, Su Wen himself kept distancing himself from the Stone Monster, engaging it in a prolonged battle. Boom! The massive rock giant collapsed with a thunderous crash, waves of soul power surged, and a black spirit ring slowly emerged. The Stone Monster of 20,000 years was defeated. After the recent battle, Su Wen had quietly shifted the battlefield to a secluded area. He also set up an illusion nearby, which he had formed during his travels by combining his manipulation of spatial power with illusion techniques. In the future, let's call this illusion a combination of illusion techniques and spatial power. It's not a small space. The space Su Wen opened up for using the 5th spirit skill is called the illusionary realm. This illusionary could conveniently conceal his tracks, provide warnings, and give him enough reaction time. Su Wen sat cross-legged on the ground. Boom! His 3rd ring exploded. The 3rd ring shattered. The soul power within it circulated in his body, drawing the Black Stone Monster Spirit Ring to fill the gap in his 3rd ring. In the martial spirit space, where the 3rd ring originally resided, there was no vacancy for the spirit ring, and its essence did not autonomously integrate into Su Wen's body too. Instead, the entire Black Spirit Ring, along with its essence, simultaneously repelled Su Wen. attempting to leave his body. Su Wen mobilized his spiritual power, firmly securing the spirit ring in his third ring position, while also drawing its soul power into his body, integrating it bit by bit. This was also a major focus of his perfecting the ring replacement method to the level of fusion. Through multiple soul power fusion processes, he also found some suitable nodes for integrating soul power. At this moment, as he continued to circulate two streams of soul power, with the fusion of these two streams, the rejection of the spirit ring essence against Su Wen began to weaken. However, it still maintained an indifferent attitude, as if it was saying, "Third ring, why are you still bothering me, and you're even blending with my soul power? This spirit master is such a scumbag." But Su Wen paid no attention to whether this spirit ring essence acknowledged him or not. After completing the initial fusion of soul power, he took advantage of the sharp decrease in mutual rejection to forcefully pull the spirit ring essence closer to his martial spirit space. On the original third ring position, the essence slightly exploded, leaving a gap. Su Wen stuffed this new spirit ring essence into it. At the same time, he began to utilize the preliminarily fused spirit ring soul power to reshape the new third ring. It must be said that the technique of ring explosion is the core of Su Wen's ring replacement method. As the reconstruction of the third ring was completed, the spirit ring, in turn, exerted influence on the two essences on the spirit ring position, causing them to gradually merge. Power flowing. The residual soul power within the stone monster's body continuously transformed its remains, eventually forming a peculiar type of rock emitting strong energy fluctuations. After absorbing the spirit ring, Su Wen looked at the already formed special rock with astonishment. He collected the peculiar rock, dispelled the illusion, and quickly left the depths of the sunset forest. Back in Heaven Dao City, he took out the rock and studied it carefully. It has a very high affinity with soul power. Su Wen discovered that this rock had a high capacity for containing soul power in all aspects. I wonder if this thing could still give birth to another stone monster. He inexplicably had such a thought. Compared to the aftermath left after its death, Su Wen felt that this rock was more like an incubating stone monster. Is this a characteristic of a 10,000-year stone monster? Stone monsters are too rare, and 10,000-year level stone monsters are even rarer. The current understanding of stone monsters in the Spirit Master world is also insufficient. Su Wen was curious about how the stone monster tribe was born within the Sunset Forest. Moreover, since his third ring was originally a stone monster's spirit ring, he was somewhat concerned about the situation of stone monsters. Now, seeing the changes in the body of the 10,000-year stone monster, he realized that this might be related to the existence of the stone monster tribe. Of course, the ability of the body of a 10,000-year stone monster to incubate the next generation is just a form of inheritance. And it requires a 10,000-year stone monster. Their numbers won't increase either, so the birth of stone monsters is definitely not just because of this. Could it be that 10,000-year stone monsters can also naturally incubate this kind of rock? Su Wen pondered. This possibility is unlikely. There are traces of 10,000-year stone monsters in other places, but nowhere else has a stone monster tribe been born. Su Wen speculated that the answer might lie with stone monsters of over 50,000 years. They likely possess an enhanced version of this characteristic, thereby gaining the ability to incubate offspring. The hunting of stone monsters and the study of peculiar rocks only took about a month altogether. With 2 months left, Su Wen returned to the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy to inquire about the upcoming competitions. At present, his soul power was already the highest among the entire Emperor fighting team, and his strength was unquestionably the strongest. He couldn't just remain a mere substitute, could he? Moreover, Uncle Ning mentioned that Rongrong has also reached level 40. With just one more spirit ring, she'll become a spirit ancestor, 2 spirit ancestor substitutes. He plans to hide the fact he's a spirit king. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 159, Spirit Fusion Technique? It's commendable that Su Wen can still keep a clear conscience by calling himself a spirit ancestor. He became a spirit king a year ago, and now, almost a year later, he's contemplating becoming a spirit emperor. Yet, he still presents himself as a spirit ancestor. I wonder what expression the captain and Yu Feng will have when they find out. Su Wen imagined the scene. Undoubtedly, it would be a sight to behold. Currently, within the Emperor fighting team, apart from Du Guyan, even Qin Ming, who knew about Su Wen's previous spirit hunting expedition, only thinks that Su Wen obtained a 4th spirit ring. Heaven Dao Imperial Academy. Teacher Qin Ming, Rongrong and I would like to transfer to the second team. Although it's normal for teams to have reserve members in case of injuries during matches, the situation with the Emperor fighting team, having Su Wen and Rongrong, two spirit ancestors, as substitutes, is indeed unacceptable. But if Su Wen and Ning Rongrong were to become regular team members, it would be difficult to explain to Yu Feng and the others. So, Su Wen has proposed transferring himself and Ning Rongrong to the second team. Qin Ming furrowed his brows, looking at Su Wen, and said, Xiao, although you and Rongrong are spirit ancestors, there aren't any good teammates in the second team. Even though both teams are participating in the Spirit Master competition, the members of the second team are at least more serious than other students at Heavendao Imperial Academy. However, their seriousness is limited. Not only are they all spirit elders, but they also can't be considered outstanding among their peers. It can only be said that their combat power is decent, and their spirit rings are the best matches. They can't achieve seamless cooperation with each other. If Su Wen and Rongrong were transferred temporarily, the already not very coordinated teamwork would only collapse further. But considering Su Wen and Ning Rongrong's past achievements, Qin Ming seems to accept it. Even in group battles, Su Wen's duo are capable of taking on 7 opponents. Alright, I will report to the 3 members of the Board of Education and transfer. The 3 members of the Board of Education have no objections to your request, Qin Ming said. In addition, I have also made another request to the 3 major members of the Board of Education, which is to have the second squad directly promoted, while the Emperor fighting team fights its way up in each match. Su Wen didn't expect Qin Ming to make such a decision. However, he quickly understood Qin Ming's intentions. Now Xian Heng and Yanzi have broken through to Spirit Ancestor, and Shimo has reached level 40. I will help him get the Spirit Ring before the competition. Originally, I wanted to wait for Shimo, but he is already stuck at level 39. It has been a long time, and Yu Feng and Osler also broke through level 39 2 months ago. If they can advance through the battles, they also have a chance to break through the bottleneck and reach level 40 with the help of the tournament. Understanding Qin Ming's plan, Su Wen nodded in agreement, showing understanding towards his arrangement. Moreover, considering the situation with the second squad, if they want to advance to the finals, it's likely that they will rely entirely on you and Rongrong. By the time of the finals, you would have expended too much energy, so it's better to directly promote you. Su Wen gladly accepted Qin Ming's arrangement. He wasn't the type arrangement of Spirit Master who needed to find his rhythm in battle, and besides, the early stage matches didn't have much impact on him, they didn't hone his skills. However, if the Emperor fighting team were to advance on their own, it would cause wear and tear. Therefore, the captain and vice-captain of the second team, both spirit elders, were transferred to the Emperor fighting team as substitutes. After sorting out the matters regarding the matches, Su Wen left the academy once again and headed to the 7 treasure glazed tile sect 1. Uncle Ning, is there any issue with Rongrong's 4th spirit ring? Ning Fengzi looked at Su Wen, somewhat conflicted. Xiao, do you think Rongrong should try a spirit ring that's over 10,000 years old for her 4th one? According to his thoughts, absorbing a spirit ring of over 9,000 years would be safer for the 4th one. Anyway, the martial spirit had already evolved. In Ning Fengzi's view, ensuring Ning Rongrong's cultivation safety at this time was the most important. However, Ning Rongrong insisted on trying a 10,000-year-old spirit ring for her 4th one. Soul shock is no joke. Xiao, your spiritual power is strong enough to try it, but Rongrong's spiritual power, although initially, the success of Su Wen's ability to absorb a 1,000-year-old spirit ring ahead of schedule was attributed to his spiritual power, which ensured that Ning Rongrong did not lag behind in her cultivation in this aspect. However, after all, only the heart separation control exercises spiritual power, and Ning Rongrong's spiritual power is far from reaching Uncle Ning. Let Rongrong absorb the 10,000-year-old spirit ring. I can handle the soul shock, Su Wen said. How can you handle it? Ning Fengzi didn't doubt Su Wen because of Su Wen's capabilities, but because this involved Ning Rongrong's safety, and he had to be cautious. Uncle Ning, have you forgotten what kind of spirit beast my 5th spirit ring came from? Void silver moon taper? Ning Fengzi's eyes flickered, evidently understanding Su Wen's means of helping Ning Rongrong deal with the soul shock. But, in this case, Rongrong will probably suffer even more. Ning Fengzi sighed inwardly. He remembered Ning Rongrong's attitude a couple of days ago when he tried to persuade her to absorb spirit rings below 10,000 years. She mentioned that she had already fallen behind Su Wen too much and didn't want to hold him back, so she felt that she had to surpass the standards of a regular spirit master at every step to be able to assist Su Wen. "Dad, has Brother Xiaowen arrived?" Ning Rongrong's voice came from outside the main hall. As she entered the hall and saw Su Wen, her eyes lit up. Brother Xiaowen seemed particularly dazzling today. That was Ning Rongrong's first reaction. Douluo said sternly, his voice heavy. He couldn't bear to watch anymore. Ning Fengzi's face also darkened. Ning Rongrong stuck out her tongue, dismounted from Su Wen, her gaze peculiar as she scrutinized him. "Brother Xiaowen, why do I feel like you're different from before?" Su Wen also felt a strange attraction. His gaze filled with astonishment as he looked at Ning Rongrong. He searched through the information in his mind for an explanation. "Rongrong, in our current situation, this should be a precursor to the spirit fusion technique." Spirit fusion technique. Ning Fengzi and the two-titled Douluo exclaimed in astonishment. The 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda has never possessed a spirit fusion technique with any other martial spirit. And Ning Rongrong's martial spirit had even evolved into the 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda. How could it suddenly exhibit the spirit fusion technique? Why didn't it happen before? Ning Fengzi frowned, expressing puzzlement at this phenomenon. Su Wen also hesitated slightly as he speculated, perhaps the increasing compatibility we've developed over time has allowed us to have the potential to perform the spirit fusion technique. In fact, he had some insights in his heart. The successful ring replacement of the first spirit ring granted him the star attribute, and the stone monster spirit ring of the third circle reached the level of 20,000 years, also possessing a trace of treasure aura. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 160, Forbidden Law Domain. The special rocks left by the stone monster of 20,000 years itself are treasures, somewhat similar to spirit bones. One can also consider the stone monster reaching the 10,000 year level as a treasure. Their spirit rings inherently possess a kind of precious aura. Additionally, Su Wen merged book pages into Ning Rongrong's body every day, and Ning Rongrong gradually adapted to Su Wen. Both parties possessed a degree of star attribute, coupled with continuous refinement resulting in compatibility. Perhaps this is the reason why both parties can feel the opportunity for martial spirit fusion this time. In fact, one thing Su Wen forgot is that the 8-petal immortal orchid he consumed and the beautiful silk tulip absorbed by Ning Rongrong are a pair of complementary herbs, with mutually reinforcing effects. It's not that he doesn't remember, but the effects of these two immortal grasses are really not closely related. This kind of thing is only mentioned once in the original work. Well, feeling the appearance is just one point. To complete the martial spirit fusion, practice and cooperation between each other are still needed. The spirit fusion technique cannot be easily performed. Besides compatibility, it also requires cooperation between both parties. The spirit fusion technique of the White Tiger martial spirit and the Hell Civic martial spirit, the Hell White Tiger, often requires nurturing feelings from childhood between the Starluo royal family and the Zhu family to achieve stable spirit fusion technique of the Hell White Tiger. Like Daim Yubei and Zhu Xiuqing, who have a lot of estrangement and some eternal resistance but can still the fusion, they are considered to have extremely high compatibility. However, during the fusion process, they will consume more soul power and may also quickly exit the state of martial spirit fusion. There is no need for Su Wen and Ning Rongrong to nurture such feelings between them. At the moment they felt it, their spirit fusion technique could actually begin to be attempted. Since you've felt it, why don't you give it a try and explore the effects of the spirit fusion technique complete first, said Ning Fengzi. Understanding the effects of the spirit fusion technique first would also help when hunting for spirit rings later, ensuring that this spirit fusion technique isn't disrupted. Indeed, the spirit fusion technique can be disrupted afterwards. After all, the current spirit fusion technique of Su Wen and Ning Rongrong is the result of mutual compatibility developed afterwards, so it's natural that it might deviate from their respective paths again, making the spirit fusion technique impossible to perform. Okay, Su Wen also understood the importance of this. Their spirit fusion technique, formed under the changes of star attributes, treasure aura, and Ning Rongrong's continuous enhancements by him, should be difficult to change due to subsequent spirit ring additions. However, it's still something to be mindful of they were his own. Ning Rongrong's experience was similar to Su Wen's, as if she could sense his mood. A brilliant light flashed, enveloping the two. It really is the spirit fusion technique. Seeing the successful display by the two, Ning Fengzi, Bone Douluo and Sword Douluo were all surprised 9 floors. Among them, the first floor lit up, and a large number of words flowed into Ning Fengzi's body. After carefully sensing the changes within himself, Ning Fengzi opened his eyes and exclaimed, "Auxiliary type spirit skill, it's twice as effective as Rongrong's simple enhancement." His Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo each took in a cold breath. Previously, when Ning Rongrong's martial spirit evolved and there was hope for 100% amplification for others, just imagining that magnitude had already shocked them. However, now Ning Rongrong and Su Wen's spirit fusion technique actually doubled the effect directly. In other words, Ning Rongrong, who already had a 50% increase at the 4th ring, would experience a 100% increase in this spirit fusion technique state. They had thought it might be a distant possibility, but they hadn't expected it to happen now. 100% increase in all aspects like strength and speed might even compensate for a 1-level difference in Super Douluo. With this in mind, how could Bone Douluo and Sword Douluo not be shocked? They had experienced Ning Fengzi's amplification and naturally understood the power of percentage increases. Just an 80% increase can greatly boosted their combat power. 100% will only make it stronger. But 200%? It's hard to imagine. However, the changes in the tower have not stopped. Golden streams of light circulated around the tower, and streams of text seemed to move with vitality, enveloping the entire training area. Domain? Ning Fengzi, Sword Douluo, and Bone Douluo all speculated. Boom! A terrifying oppressive force descended, causing the ground of the entire arena to collapse abruptly. Gurong's face changed slightly as he stepped forward into the arena, sensing this oppressive force. Such a strong oppression. Even if I enter the martial spirit true body state, my movements would still be hindered. In other words, even if the martial spirit possesses the body, spirit skills not exceeding the 7th spirit skill would still be affected by this oppressive force. Seeing this, Chen Xin also entered the arena and released strands of sword light, wandering within the range covered by the golden streams of light. Not only that, he said, within the entire range covered by the golden streams of light, it seems that the spirit skills being performed are being analyzed and digested. The longer they are used, the weaker their power becomes. Chen Xin looked at Ning Fengzi. Understanding Chen Xin's meaning, Ning Fengzi summoned a 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda and performed a spirit skill. Radiant columns of light enveloped Chen Xin, gradually dissipating as time passed. Even auxiliary type spirit skills can gradually dissipate. After feeling it, within just 3 minutes, the blessing given by a spirit saint titled Douluo was actually dissipated. This wasn't due to the exhaustion of soul power after performing the spirit skill, but rather, despite having sufficient soul power, it seemed as if the entire area was covered by the golden streams of light analyzing and restricting the appearance of this enhancement. Uncle Ning, try that spirit skill again. Su Wen's voice came from within the tower. Upon hearing this, Ning Fengzi followed Su Wen's instructions and performed the spirit skill once more. Then, both he and Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo's faces changed drastically. Unable to perform. His spirit skill had been cast, and it had locked onto Chen Xin, but it didn't take effect. Any spirit skill can only take effect once within our forbidden law domain, and even that one time will quickly dissipate. As the tower dissipated, Ning Rongrong looked exhausted, but Su Wen held her up, preventing her from falling. Su Wen's face was also pale. Clearly, the consumption within the forbidden law domain was considerable. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 161, Do you want to listen to what you're saying? The only regret is that every time the forbidden law domain is reactivated, the forbidden spirit skills are refreshed. Ning Fengzi? Do you want to listen to what you're saying? This forbidden law domain is already outrageous. If the forbidden spirit skills aren't refreshed, then wouldn't it mean that a spirit master, after just one battle with you, would lose the qualification to even use spirit skills in front of you in the future? I'll give you time to use spirit skills until you realize that you don't even dare to use spirit skills in front of me. Outrageous. Moreover, Su Wen and Ning Rongrong's spirit fusion technique is already very powerful, but it consumes quite a bit of soul power for them. However, when both sides achieve Spirit Saint Realm, this spirit fusion technique will probably be able to be maintained for a long time. By then, that will be truly insane. Of course, this kind of rule-based spirit skill, like the auxiliary type spirit skill of the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda martial spirit, has already been somewhat formalized and it's difficult to make it stronger. At most, It can consume less or enhance the speed of its effectiveness. But if the effect of this forbidden law domain is faster, it will only be more terrifying. For now, it seems that my Nrongrong's spirit fusion technique is formed around her martial spirit and my first 4 spirit skills as the core, so the influence of additional spirit rings in the future won't be too significant, Su Wen said. Whether it's the enhancement of auxiliary type spirit skills or the forbidden law domain, the foundation is Nrongrong's spirit skill and Su Wen's first 4 spirit skills. Spirit skills, forming the forbidden law domain. Xiaoan, try not to reveal your spirit fusion technique in front of outsiders, Ning Fengzi cautioned. The effect of this spirit fusion technique clearly has significant flaws. Once the effect is known and targeted by others, they could still danger. Su Wen nodded, but didn't feel restrained by the knowledge of its weaknesses. Even in the state of spirit fusion technique, all of Su Wen's spirit skills are still retained. Moreover, it's even easier than when he performs encounter them individually. Therefore, even if the forbidden law domain cannot take effect, Su Wen's combat power in the state of martial spirit fusion is much stronger than usual. Finally, I can help Brother Xiaoan. Nrongrong felt good, no longer feeling like just an accessory. Oh, Uncle Ning, I've talked to the academy, and they've placed both Rongrong and me in the second team. Also, the quota sponsored by the Heaven Dao Empire has been allocated to the second team, Su Wen remembered and informed Ning Fengzi and Nrongrong. Ning Fengzi nodded in response, without any objections. This Spirit Master competition was destined to be Su Wen's moment of glory alone. In this edition of the Spirit Master competition, and even in the competitions to come, Su Wen would be the most dazzling figure. On this point, Ning Fengzi had no doubt. Oh, Xiaoan, how far are you from reaching rank 60 in soul power? Ning Fengzi remembered when Sword Douluo mentioned seeing Su Wen in Starfall Village. Su Wen's soul power had already reached rank 56. Now, nearly 5 months had passed, so he must be close to breaking through rank 57, right? Or perhaps breaking through to rank 58? A faint smile curved Su Wen's lips as he said, Uncle Ning, I've already reached rank 58, and I should have a chance to break through to rank 59 within 2 months. Ning Fengzi's pupils contracted. So fast. Even when reaching the Spirit King realm, Su Wen's cultivation speed was completely unreasonable one. However, according to previous reasoning, the fusion degree of Su Wen and the conveniences brought by other aspects shouldn't have provided him with such a significant boost, right? It could only be said that there were other factors contributing to Su Wen's cultivation speed. Ning Fengzi knew this, but didn't delve into it. Su Wen naturally wouldn't actively explain anything. Ever since he developed the Source Soul Power cultivation method, his cultivation speed had been destined to surpass all Spirit Masters. Because he was always cultivating at the fastest speed his martial spirit could endure. No, even faster than that, because while he's reaching the maximum daily growth of his soul power, he's also accumulating more Source Soul Power. Until he reaches a multiple of 10 in his soul power, these Source Soul Powers won't manifest. But once he absorbs Spirit Rings, the Source Soul Power will also become evident, serving as Su Wen's cultivation achievements. This already breaks his cultivation speed limit. Moreover, his Heavenly Book martial spirit has long been among the top martial spirits, and the fusion degree with his martial spirit itself elevates the daily growth limit he can achieve too. With all these factors combined, he becomes entirely unreasonable. What a pity. While Ning Fengzi was puzzled, Su Wen sighed. He shook his head and said, it's a pity that even the Spirit Master competition can't bring me pressure. Otherwise, I wouldn't need this sponsored spot. It just so happens that I want to test if I can break through rank 60. With the pressure from the preliminary and qualifying matches, Douluo couldn't resist anymore and secretly released a burst of soul power to kick Su Wen away. His actions were very stealthy, to the point that neither Ning Fengzi nor Sword Douluo noticed. Su Wen was speechless, glanced at Gu Rong, indicating that he had taken note of this grudge. Ho Xianyang's shoulder to be patted, and Douluo to be kicked. Every little detail was meticulously recorded in his book. He didn't have this martial spirit for nothing. 6. I plan to have Rongrong's 4th spirit skill be accompanied by a defensive type spirit skill. Ning Fengzi coughed and began discussing business. A defensive type spirit skill, Su Wen nodded in response. The amplification type spirit skills that the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda can produce are the same, but the order can be adjusted. Now, Nrongrong can choose to amplify attack attributes or attribute amplification, which enhances the target's strongest attribute. However, the addition of attribute amplification can occur at the 6th ring. By then, with a sufficiently high spirit ring duration, it can minimize the consumption of this spirit skill, making it most suitable. For the amplification of attack and defense attributes, Ning Fengzi chose defense for Ning Rongrong. I've thought about it, and I still think that since Rongrong often utilizes your engraving strengthening ability, it's appropriate to enhance her physique using those methods, Ning Fengzi explained. What? Ning Rongrong let out a cry of despair. She already had enough training programs. My goodness. There surely won't be an auxiliary spirit master in this world more miserable than her. As an auxiliary spirit master, the stronger your own abilities, the better you can protect yourself. Moreover, many of Xiaowen's elemental controls also require a strong physique to achieve better results, but, doesn't Brother Xiaowen still have earth element control? Ning Rongrong muttered with a pout. To unleash stronger power in wind and fire attribute control, a high level of physical fitness is required. But for earth element control, Rongrong, you can't learn my mountain overturning seal, Su Wen said helplessly. The mountain overturning seal, rather than being simply earth element control, also involves the infusion of spiritual power and enhancement in terms of intent. It's not something that can be achieved with just simple earth attribute manipulation techniques. Okay, Ning Rongrong replied, feeling dejected. For some reason, Su Wen's words made her even more obedient. Ning Fengzi felt helpless. Let's go, I'll take you to hunt down a 4th rank from a 10,000-year-old beast. What? Ning Rongrong, who was originally feeling dejected, suddenly became excited upon hearing about the 4th rank from a 10,000-year-old beast. Dad, do you agree for me to absorb the 4th rank from a 10,000-year-old beast? If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 162, Book of 10,000 Techniques has more than 4 spirit skills, right? Knowing that she could absorb a 10,000-years-old spirit ring for her 4th spirit ring, Ning Rongrong was very excited. Well, when the time comes, Brother Xiaowen will go with you too. He will solve your soul shock problem for you. That's great, Ning Rongrong said happily. Thank you, Brother Xiaowen, let's go. This time it's still your grandpa Bone to take you to get the 4th spirit ring, Gurong said. Chen Xin now has therefore, this time Gurong will help Ning Rongrong get the spirit ring. Actually, Ning Rongrong doesn't really need a title Douluo to help her hunt down her disciple's spirit ring, even if it's a spirit ring of 10,000 years' time. The spirit beast hunt took place in Sunset Forest. And Ning Rongrong's 4th spirit ring this time unexpectedly came from a stone monster. Accompanied by Bone Douluo, Su Wen brought them to the rocky area. After alarming many stone monsters, they captured one stone monster that was over 10,000 years old, escaped the pursuit of the stone monster tribe, and only then did Gurong kill the stone monster. A circle of pitch-black spirit ring floated, and Ning Rongrong couldn't wait to start absorbing it. Rongrong, wait a moment, Gurong interrupted Ning Rongrong, telling her not to be in a hurry. He looked at Su Wen and asked, how about it, Xiaowen, is it okay? Su Wen pretended to feel the residual regret in the spirit ring, seemingly sensing whether his illusion realm could absorb it. It's possible. With this assurance from Su Wen, Gurong felt relieved and allowed Ning Rongrong to absorb the spirit ring. Ning Rongrong couldn't wait any longer. She sat directly on the ground and drew the spirit ring to envelop herself. Boom! A huge surge of soul power rushed into her body. This wasn't particularly frightening for her. The real challenge for her came from the soul shock of the 10,000 years old spirit ring, which made her somewhat fuzzy with just a glance. Su Wen promptly activated his illusion realm, absorbing the residual regret power and weakening the intensity of the soul shock. The first impact also brought some gains to Ning Rongrong, also guiding the force of the soul shock to impact her sea of consciousness. Boom! The sea of consciousness opened up. The residual regret that was not completely swallowed by Su Wen was completely suppressed and absorbed by Ning Rongrong. The spiritual power in her sea of consciousness also increased as a result. Yellow, purple, black. Primary principle of the auxiliary system is to protect oneself and not attract too much attention. This was the reason Ning Fengzi persuaded her to absorb the 100-years-old spirit ring before she absorbed her 2nd ring. But now, for the 4th ring, she didn't need to follow this rule anymore, because she believed in the protection from Su Wen. Rongrong, has your sea of consciousness opened? Su Wen sensed the change in Ning Rongrong's spiritual power and asked. Yes, Brother Xiaowen, I just succeeded, Ning Rongrong said joyfully. Yet, to the first page of the Book of 10,000 Techniques, Flame Fist. Using soul power as the catalyst, Lin Dong's weak flame affinity was enough to condense flames around his right fist, creating explosive damage. However, the flames burdened his right hand. Yet, as he continued to experience the execution of Flame Fist, Lin Dong became increasingly familiar with controlling the flames. As he fully mastered Flame Fist and gathered flames around his fists with his own abilities, the first page of the Book of 10,000 Techniques finally trembled and slowly turned. Indeed, I have to master these spirit skills myself to turn to the next page, Lin Dong thought to himself. He wasn't intimidated by these stringent conditions. Instead, his determination was unwavering. He didn't believe that after experiencing the feeling of executing those spirit skills firsthand, he couldn't master them. The second page, Fire Explosion. 2.5 months later, Lin Dong successfully mastered the 4 spirit skills on the first 4 pages of the Book of 10,000 Techniques. They were Flame Fist, Fire Explosion, Water Flowing Wave, and Earth Stab. It could be said that these 4 spirit skills were all simple, yet they formed the foundation of corresponding attribute spirit skills. Despite mastering these 4 spirit skills, Lin Dong still couldn't access the 5th spirit skill on the Book of 10,000 Techniques. However, the 5th page turned as usual and revealed a different content. The Book of 10,000 Techniques brought about a qualitative change for him. With a mastery of the 4 basic spirit skills, his current strength had improved significantly. Apart from his weak soul power and insufficient endurance, he was already stronger than many spirit masters. 10,000 Techniques guided me to learn spirit skills of 3 attributes: fire, water, and earth. Now it has led me to integrate fire into my spirit techniques, which perfectly fits my path. Lin Dong speculated that there might be golden wood attribute spirit skills behind the Book of 10,000 Techniques. However, it seemed that they were concerned about him biting off more than he could chew, so they only provided 3 attribute spirit skills for him. As for the fire attribute, there are 2 spirit skills, and the test on the 5th page is to integrate the fire element into spear techniques. It's likely that fire is comparatively easier to integrate into spear techniques, and its power is more immediately effective. It has to be said, his ability to speculate is quite outstanding. Unfortunately, Su Wen really only prepared 4 spirit skills for him and the test on the 5th page. The rest of the Book of 10,000 Techniques is empty. My 5-element spear may be weak, but it's just not thoroughly mutated. With 5 attributes, it seems inherently powerful. Mastering spirit skills of 3 attributes has made Lin Dong realize the benefits of having multiple attributes. With all 5 elemental attributes, whether in attack or defense, they can complement each other well. Now, the only drawback of the 5-element spear is its weak attributes and the limitations it imposes on his soul power cultivation. Soul power is the foundation. My martial spirit is really holding me back, Lin Dong said in silence. He knew that this was the biggest obstacle before him, even bigger than harnessing the 5 elements attributes. If the issue with his martial spirit couldn't be resolved, he would never be able to become strong. I hope the Book of 10,000 Techniques can help me solve this problem. He focused his attention on the Book of 10,000 Techniques within his ganshin, filled with anticipation. Lin Dong had already become somewhat reliant on it. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, Recruiting a Talent. Ice and Fire Yin Yang Well. Su Wen opened his eyes, a hint of surprise flashing in his gaze. This Lin Dong, he actually mastered 4 spirit skills in just 2.5 months. This speed is even a bit more exaggerated than Su Wen's initial progress. However, with Su Wen's Book of 10,000 Techniques to assist him, Lin Dong can personally experience the feeling of releasing spirit skills, making his learning process faster and more natural. It seems that this Lin Dong is also a genius restricted by martial spirit aptitude, Su Wen thought. He closed his eyes and continued to operate soul power for cultivation. 1 month later, Su Wen once again felt a movement from the Book of 10,000 Techniques he had separated. Success, he was somewhat absent-minded. Could this Lin Dong really be a genius? In that case, I'm actually looking forward to it a bit. Su Wen looked forward to the day the other party would find Heaven Dao City. Qingyang City. With the success of the fire element spear method, Lin Dong finally opened the 6th page of the Book of 10,000 Techniques. Page 6, Join Wisdom Palace to acquire subsequent spirit skills 1 Lin Dong? What is this? He flipped through the Book of 10,000 Techniques and found that his soul power could easily flip through the subsequent pages, but all the pages beyond were blank. Only the first 4 pages contained 4 spirit skills, and the 5th page had a task. Oh, wait, there was also the 6th page instructing him to join something called Wisdom Palace to obtain subsequent spirit skills. Lin Dong refused to believe that the Book of 10,000 Techniques could only contain these 4 spirit skills. I must join this Wisdom Palace. This was his chance to change himself. Especially since Lin Dong placed his hopes of resolving his martial spirit deficiency issue on the Book of 10,000 Techniques. However, now that the Book of 10,000 Techniques only had 6 pages of content, he could only follow its instructions, join the Wisdom Palace, and seek a solution. Wisdom Palace, an unknown influence even to his father, who was a spirit king, must not be trifled with. Lin Dong expressed his firm intention to leave to his father. Lin Xiao, helpless, could only let him go to Heaven Dao City. Elder Wang, I'll trouble you to protect Lin Dong along the way. He specifically requested his former brother to protect Lin Dong on his journey. Wang Yuan patted his chest and assured, Brother, do you still doubt my abilities? Little Dong's safety will definitely not be an issue, thank you, Elder Wang. Another half-month passed. Su Wen sensed the fluctuations from the Book of 10,000 Techniques he had created. Has it arrived? He ceased his cultivation, left the ice and fire yin-yang well, and returned to the Wisdom Palace. Now, the Wisdom Palace had been completed. It could be said that the entire Wisdom Palace exuded a naturally refined atmosphere, shrouded in mist, nestled among the 3 magical mountains, with a low-key yet elegant ambience. Before reaching Heaven Dao City, Lin Dong felt the fluctuations of the Book of 10,000 Techniques in his Danshan, guiding him towards the direction of the 3 magical mountains. 3 Little Dong, where are you going? Wang Yuan expressed confusion. Lin Dong replied, Uncle Wang, I won't wander aimlessly. Wang Yuan, worried, followed Lin Dong all the way there. Is this the Wisdom Palace? Lin Dong looked at the Wisdom Palace and couldn't help but marvel. His heart began to yearn for its power. Wang Yuan, puzzled, searched through his memories of various major powers but found no connection to the Wisdom Palace. Upon hearing Lin Dong's exclamation, he immediately asked, Little Dong, have you heard of the Wisdom Palace? What kind of power is it? Lin Dong shook his head and said, Uncle Wang, I don't know either, but I know this is my opportunity. Su Wen emerged from the Wisdom Palace and saw the 2 of them. His gaze lingered on Lin Dong. Under Su Wen's gaze, Lin Dong felt as if he were being seen through. Wang Yuan also felt pressured. This young man is so strong. Lin Dong, we meet again. It seems you've made a decision, Su Wen said lightly. Not forget the favor of the predecessor. Today, I come here only to join the Wisdom Palace and seek methods for cultivation, Lin Dong said. If join the Wisdom Palace, your issues can be resolved, but this is a difficult path. You must prepare yourself, Su Wen said. Lin Dong's gaze was firm. I have already prepared myself mentally, you should reconsider. Your martial spirit is too fragile. To complete evolution, my suggestion is to absorb a 1,000-year-old spirit ring as your first spirit ring, Su Wen said calmly. What? Wang Yuan exclaimed in shock. He looked at Su Wen, scanning the Wisdom Palace. Could this be some kind of scam? Absorb a 1,000-year-old spirit ring as the first spirit ring? How is that possible? Lin Dong was also moved, not expecting the predecessor in front of him to propose such a method. However, absorbing a 1,000-year-old spirit ring as the first spirit ring is definitely impossible. But his heart only wavered for a moment before firming up. Because he thought of the Book of 10,000 Techniques. The Book of 10,000 Techniques that allowed him to experience various spirit skills. Since it could achieve this, the Wisdom Palace must be capable, not to the extent of setting completely unattainable goals for himself. I am willing, Little Dong. Wang Yuan, seeing Lin Dong agree so readily, immediately wanted to dissuade him. Su Wen's 5 spirit rings appeared in succession. Purple, black, 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 black. As the 5 spirit rings appeared, Wang Yuan was already struggling to breathe under the pressure of the powerful soul power. His eyes were filled with horror. How is that possible? Lin Dong also swallowed hard, unable to believe it. There's nothing impossible. Since you've joined the Wisdom Palace will also devise a cultivation plan for you. In theory, You have a chance to complete the 1,000-year-old first ring, Su Wen said calmly when he glanced at Wang Yuan and said, don't reveal the age of my spirit rings. Although he said this, he still used illusions, causing illusions. Wang Yuan's gaze to become dazed, as if he had forgotten what had just happened too. Even the experiences that occurred after arriving at the Wisdom Palace were covered up by Su Wen with illusions. Uncle Wang, Lin Dong looked at the bewildered Wang Yuan with concern. Don't worry, I just cast an illusion on him. I don't want outsiders to know the colors of my spirit rings, Su Wen said reassuringly. Su Wen chuckled mischievously, then used illusions to remove the unstable factors. Also stay in the Wisdom Palace, but everything must follow the rules of the Wisdom Palace. Thank you, just call me Palace Master. Although Lin Dong didn't understand why the Palace Master of the Wisdom Palace was just Su Wen, a spirit king, he still respectfully complied. Thank you, Palace Master. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 164, Teacher Wen? Su Wen's mouth twitched. He hadn't thought about the issue of addressing himself before, and the title of Palace Master was just made up based on the name of Wisdom Palace. Now, hearing others call him Palace Master felt strange. Let's not call me Palace Master from now on. I'll rethink the titles for the upper and lower levels of Wisdom Palace, Su Wen said awkwardly. Lin Dong didn't understand the situation. Su Wen introduced him to the current situation of no wonder the outside world doesn't know about the existence of Wisdom Palace. Turns out it's just been established. However, with the extraordinary ability of the Book of 10,000 Techniques, Wisdom Palace is bound to be impressive. Even with only 4 spirit skills, Lin Dong personally experienced its terrifying aspect. Cheating to cultivate. I've never heard of such a thing before. Wisdom Palace will soon become a renowned powerful force throughout the continent. As the second student recruited by Wisdom Palace, you have to shoulder a heavy responsibility, Su Wen said with a hopeful expression. Yes, Lin Dong said excitedly. He hadn't expected to be valued so highly. Well, after joining Wisdom Palace, you can also access Wisdom Palace's resources, Su Wen said as he led Lin Dong to the Mountain of Books and Sea of Knowledge. What's this? Lin Dong exclaimed. As Su Wen led him into the hall of the Mountain of Books, the whole scene seemed to flip. Now, they appeared to be at the foot of a mountain, with various books piled up on the peak. Is this what they mean by Mountain of Books? All these materials, from here to the halfway point of the mountain, are what you need to study. Only by passing the assessments can you be considered qualified and take on roles within Wisdom Palace, Su Wen explained. Lin Dong's expression was exaggerated. Because all he could see was books. How long would it take to learn all this? With a wave of his right hand, Su Wen sent a book flying towards Lin Dong, merging into his mind. After experiencing it, Lin Dong opened his eyes again, once more astonished. All these materials have been personally organized by me. Many external powers may not necessarily have them. Among them are basics about creating spirit skills and my understanding of elements. Any fundamental materials you need can be found here, however, these are just basics, cognitive constructions. For truly useful knowledge, you'll have to search for it yourself beyond the halfway point of the mountain. Alright, now that you've experienced the Mountain of Books and Sea of Knowledge, let's talk about your cultivation issues, Lin Dong interrupted Su Wen, hesitating slightly. Teacher Wen, about the Book of 10,000 Techniques, Teacher Wen. Su Wen was momentarily stunned by Lin Dong's address. He didn't object to the title but instead showed a wry smile, looking at Lin Dong. Still want the follow-up to the Book of 10,000 Techniques? Lin Dong's face turned awkward as he nodded. To be honest, the feeling of learning to create spirit skills under the guidance of the Book of 10,000 Techniques was too exhilarating. Another child infected by the cheat, Su Wen couldn't help but sigh inwardly. I have countless spirit skills at my disposal, but I will only teach the most basic ones in the form of the Book of 10,000 Techniques. As for creating your own spirit skills afterward, you'll have to figure it out yourselves. Wisdom Palace has already provided them with too much information. If they can't succeed in creating their own spirit skills with this, then they should honestly follow the normal path of a spirit master. Lin Dong slightly reluctantly. Now, let's continue discussing your martial issue spirit. The exaggeration of 1,000 years for the first ring is unnecessary. In fact, as long as you surpass the limit of the first ring, which is 423 years, breaking the limit and bringing about evolution is enough to preliminarily change your martial spirit's aptitude. 600 or 700 years would be good. This was actually Su Wen's original plan. His first ring was only a little over 300 years, but he had source soul power, which was nearly as effective in absorption as 600 or 700 years. With this evolution, he managed to enhance his book martial spirit, which initially had similar qualities to only first level innate soul power. In the subsequent second ring, one of 1,000 years was chosen, and gradually creating a snowball effect, thus creating his top-tier heavenly book martial spirit. However, this means that before reaching the fourth ring, you will constantly have to bear the gap caused by the disadvantage of your martial spirit. This means that your cultivation speed and the power your martial spirit can provide will always be inferior to those spirit masters with excellent martial spirits. Lin Dong is not Su Wen. He doesn't have powerful spiritual spirit power, lacks the talent to perceive martial spirit space, and cannot utilize source soul power. Therefore, following Su Wen's path would yield completely different results. Compared to another student, Yi Luochen, the gap in the early stages would only widen over time. Teacher Wen, I don't know how I can absorb a 1,000-year-old spirit ring beyond my level. Lin Dong struggled for a long time before finally making a decision. Since there's this suggestion, there must be corresponding solutions. Su Wen was very satisfied with his choice. I have the spirit ascension method, which, once learned, can alleviate about 100 years of burden from a 1,000-year-old spirit ring. If mastered to a profound level, it can reduce the pressure by 200 to 300 years. I have the body tempering technique, which, once learned, can temper every part of a spirit master's body, enhance their endurance, the power of the stars to assist in body tempering. Are these enough? Su Wen slowly revealed the assistance he could provide. Lin Dong lowered his head, pondering over the various conditions Su Wen had just mentioned, whether they were for improving physical qualities, enhancing willpower, or reducing the impact of spirit ring absorption. It's as if he's gathered all three directions of leap-level absorption of a spirit ring. Indeed, the main topic of the material Su Wen had just found for Lin Dong in the Mountain of Books was about leap-level absorption of a spirit ring. Teacher Wen, Lin Dong is willing to give it a try. Alright, Su Wen led Lin Dong to one of the peaks of the three magical mountains. Supervision Department. At the peak, a grand hall stood prominently. Around the Supervision Department hall, square boulders were arranged, drawing faint starlight to cultivate and reach level 10 within 2 years and absorb a 1,000-year-old spirit ring. Can you do it? Even though Lin Dong's initial soul power was slightly lower than Su Wen's, his conditions were much better than Su Wen's. Initially, Su Wen reached level 10 in less than a year and a half. Then, accumulating origin soul power took about another year, making him a spirit master in a total of 2.5 years. Lin Dong's task of becoming a spirit master within 2 years was daunting, but it wasn't without basis in Su Wen's arrangement. This is internal strength, this is external strength, and there's also the spirit ascension method and body tempering technique. You should be able to quickly master the 4 major spirit skills and develop your own fire element spear, thus quickly learning these 4 techniques, Su Wen said. Finally done arranging Lin Dong's matters, Su Wen left Supervision Peak and arrived at Law Enforcement Peak. Outside the enforcement hall, a small figure was meditating. With Chen Xin's help, Yi Luochen obtained a first spirit ring close to 600 years, his soul power directly reaching level 12. After half a year of cultivation, he broke through successively, and now he has reached level 15 too. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 165, The Opening of the Competition. Promoted 3 levels in half a year. This is the effect after coordinating Su Wen's external strength and internal strength, as well as the application of the body tempering technique to the power of the stars. Yi Luochen was originally had top-tier martial spirit, the Morning Star Sword. With the enhancement of these techniques, his cultivation speed in the Spirit Master realm far exceeded normal logic. At this rate, within a year, he completely had the hope of breaking through to level 20, and then obtain the second Spirit Ring, becoming a Spirit Grandmaster. Brother Wen, due to the relationship with Sword Douluo, Yi Luochen called Su Wen Brother Wen. Su Wen expressed that it was better to discuss each matter separately. Alright, Luochen, there's a new member at Wisdom Palace, currently practicing at Supervision Peak. When you have time, you can exchange cultivation experiences with him, new member. Great, Yi Luochen's eyes lit up, looking forward to the new junior brother. Also, I'm planning to add a self-created spirit skill cultivation subject at Wisdom Palace. If you're interested, you can give it a try. Self-created spirit skill subject. Yi Luochen admired Su Wen's ability inwardly. He had been practicing under Su Dalu, and he already had some understanding of many things that spirit masters face. Self-created spirit skills were extremely rare throughout the continent, yet Wisdom Palace dared to guide the cultivation of self-created spirit skills as a subject. This is the Book of 10,000 Techniques. I've integrated some self-created spirit skills suitable for you, all of which are basic spirit skills. If you can cultivate them and integrate these spirit skills into your martial spirit according to it, creating your own spirit skill, then it will be considered qualified. In the future, you can also choose to study this subject. Su Wen integrated the Book of 10,000 Techniques into Yi Luochen's body. Feeling the power of the Book of 10,000 Techniques in his Danshan, Yi Luochen suppressed his inner shock and clasped his fists to Su Wen, saying, "Brother Wen, I won't let you down. You don't need to cultivate just for my expectations. Your talent is already high enough. Whether you create your own spirit skill or not doesn't matter much. It's just that creating your own spirit skill makes it easier to integrate your many sword techniques. The guidance of Sword Douluo won't be inferior to creating your own spirit skill. If you're not suitable for the path of creating your own spirit skill, I won't force it," Su Wen reminded, waving his hand. With the matters of the two disciples of Wisdom Palace settled, Su Wen didn't plan to give them any special treatment. In the future, their cultivation levels would depend on themselves. Currently, besides the two disciples of Wisdom Palace, there were also members temporarily supported by the 7 treasure glazed tile sect responsible for maintaining the operation of Wisdom Palace 1. They are all peripheral members. Joining has no threshold, and any spirit master on the continent has this qualification in the future. To become an official member of Wisdom Palace, one needs to contribute or become an official student after being cultivated by Wisdom Palace as a disciple. Heavendao Imperial Academy. In this competition, our team does not have any reserved spots. You'll have to fight your way up through each match on your own, Qin Ming explained to the members of the Emperor fighting team. Su Wen stood aside, listening to Qin Ming explain the rules before speaking. "Teacher Qin Ming, does our second team also need to watch the matches? Knowing oneself and knowing one's enemy leads to 100 victories. Although you don't have the pressure of advancing, understanding the abilities of your opponents is still a necessary process," Qin Ming said. "Furthermore, during the competition, I will be completely leading the second team. You will practice with the first team for these 3 months, aiming to improve 1 level of soul power during the competition," Qin Ming added. When he said this, his expression did not reveal any willingness. It can be seen that this is a task given by the Board of Education. It should be the nobles behind the members of the second team exerting their influence. There's no way around it. With Su Wen and Ningrongrong's arrival, 2 of the 7 who were originally loafing suddenly entered the first team, receiving intensive and high-input training, leaving the remaining 5 dissatisfied. Clearly, they were all slacking off, so why did those 2 end up making a final sprint? The selection for the first team is very strict, and the 3 major boards of education do not allow any nobles to intervene, but the second team is more flexible. After all, the oppression of many nobles joining forces is still quite strong. Especially with one nobleman at the helm, Prince Zuzing, whose power in the academy is even greater than that of the 3 major boards of education. Of course, Prince Zuzing only ensures the interests of the nobles and has little connection with the nobles behind the second team. The 2 sides are instead in opposition. But that doesn't prevent them from both being nobles. Continental Advanced Academy Soul Dueling Tournament began right on time. Heavendao City was packed with people. As the grandest competition in the Spirit Master world, whether royalty, nobles, or even commoners, was eagerly anticipating the competition. The opening ceremony was held in the Great Spirit Arena in Heavendao City. Shrek Academy is still so bizarre, Su Wen said speechlessly. He saw those ugly, shit green school uniforms with advertisements on the back. Today is the opening ceremony of the Spirit Master competition, also the first day of the tournament. According to the previous arrangement, the first round of the round-robin matches, which is actually a team fight of spirit fighters with a performance aspect, would be drawn by the vice team of the Heavendao Imperial Academy, which is the second team. However, this year's situation is somewhat special. It will be conducted by the main team of the Heavendao Imperial Academy. Few spectators who could make it to Heavendao City. This year, being able to watch the Emperor fighting team's match in Heavendao City naturally delighted them. However, many other academy leaders frowned, expressing their incomprehension towards this arrangement by the Heaven Dao royalty. Among them, teams like the Blazing Team, which had interacted with Su Wen and the Emperor Fighting Team before, were particularly puzzled. With the lineup of the Emperor Fighting Team, they should already be quite formidable by now. The Spirit Master competition is divided into 3 realms: the preliminary rounds held in various districts, the advancement rounds between the 2 major empires' districts, and finally, the grand finals held in Spirit City. The preliminary rounds are conducted in a round-robin format, with a team with the highest winning points advancing to the advancement rounds of achieving a higher ranking. Why would the Emperor Fighting Team choose to participate in the preliminary and advancement rounds? Although they don't understand, they still maintain the most basic respect and will closely observe the abilities of each member of the Emperor Fighting Team in the upcoming matches in order to respond better. As each team enters, Su Wen in the spectator stand sees the team from Blue Sunshine Academy. Xinian, brutal dream martial spirit. Regardless of other factors, Su Wen is particularly interested in Xinian's brutal dream martial spirit. Moreover, Xinian seems to have a skull spirit bone. So, upon seeing Xinian from Blue Sunshine Academy, Su Wen paid particular attention. And each team also observed their opponents. Why isn't Su Wen showing up? Hou looked at the Emperor Fighting Team without Su Wen's figure, surprised. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 166, Temptation of Spirit Bone. In terms of the team's configuration, because the main team needs to advance a little bit, the Academy has also provided them with 3 substitute players. 2 of them were the captain and vice-captain of the original second team, in exchange for Su Wen and Ningrongrong, and the other one was the 3rd strongest attack-type Soul Master of the original second team. As for the second team, the Academy recruited another student. Regarding this, Su Wen could only express indifference. He would intervene in any situation. The 3 major boards of boards education also know about Su Wen's performance during his spirit fighter training, which is why they have configured the main team like this, constantly weakening the configuration of the second team. The weaker the configuration of the second team, the more Su Wen's strength can be demonstrated. In relative terms, the political achievements of the 3 major boards of education are actually more outstanding along. As for matching Su Wen with the highest configuration to compete for the championship against Spirit Hall, the 3 major boards of education have never considered it. Especially after learning about the slight situation of the golden generation of Spirit Hall, they never even had the idea of snatching the championship from Spirit Hall. Even if they were to compete for the championship, it would be in the next Spirit Master competition, after Su Wen has truly grown. Not only Hou, but also Feng Xiaoshan and others, among the members of the Emperor Fighting Team, carefully observed and did not find Su Wen. While puzzled, they also breathed a sigh of relief. That guy Su Wen is too abnormal. If possible, they naturally don't want to face Su Wen. Under the assistance of the Amplifying Spirit tool, Emperor Ziyi began the opening ceremony's declaration. In this tournament, all team members who can advance to the playoffs will receive rewards from the Empire, and Spirit Masters who enter the finals through the playoffs will be directly awarded titles of nobility. The atmosphere at the scene immediately became enthusiastic. Returning to his high position, the first match was about to begin. Beside Emperor Ziyi were Ning Fengzi and Archbishop Salas, and in the second row behind them were Prince Zuzing and the 3 major boards of education from the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy. Apart from them, there were also some strong individuals from the Heaven Dao Empire present. Among them, Su Wen spotted a familiar face. Huayan Zhen. At this moment, the old fellow was sitting in the VIP section, looking quite composed. As if sensing Su Wen's gaze, Huayan Zhen glanced over, instantly losing his good mood, his expression turning sour and darkening. 3 spirit bones. Huayan Zhen could remember them for a lifetime. All because of this Su Wen. Meng Shenji, if I remember correctly, your academy has a genius named Su Wen. Why isn't he participating in the competition? Huayan Zhen asked Meng Shenji. Meng Shenji narrowed his eyes, looking at Huayan Zhen, not sure why the old guy was mentioning Su Wen at this moment. On the other hand, Bai Baoshan glanced at Huayan Zhen and said indifferently, the Su Wen you mentioned is in the second team and will directly participate in the final. They didn't understand Huayan Zhen's intentions, but they still had to answer the question. As one of the 3 major boards of education of the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy, being questioned by a peak spirit Douluo of the 7 great sects, they couldn't just ignore it, right? Huan Zhen's question also seemed to attract the attention of Emperor Zhu Yi. Su Wen, I remember him. Didn't King transfer him to the research institute? Emperor Zhu Yi said this to Crown Prince Zhu King. Zhu King remained composed and said, yes, Emperor, your subject felt that Su Wen's talent in research is remarkable, so I transferred him to the research institute. Now it seems that he is indeed suited for it. Oh, Emperor Zhu Yi looked at Zhu King, curious about what exactly suited for it meant. Father Emperor, Su Wen has already achieved results at the research institute, which has also promoted his cultivation. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement, so your subject said that the research institute suits him, Zhu King explained. One Emperor Zhu Yi nodded, surprised to learn that Su Wen had made progress in research, which he hadn't known before. His most vivid impression of Su Wen was still the scene a while ago when the 3 major boards of education recommended transferring him to the second team and giving the guaranteed spot to the second team, including the achievements of Su Wen reported by the 3 major boards of education at that time. It's just unexpected that Su Wen is also a theoretician, and according to what the Crown Prince said, the research he's conducting is closely related to his cultivation achievements. He truly achieved the conversion of theory into practice. Su Wen particularly adheres to one truth: he believes that knowledge is power. So strictly speaking, his primary role is still that of a scholar, someone who transforms his own knowledge into power, Crown Prince Zhu King remarked. It's evident he genuinely appreciates Su Wen. Who completely don't know Su Wen were all affected by Zhu King's words. Knowledge is power. On the VIP section, people murmured these words. The more they pondered over it, the more they felt the depth and profundity of this statement. This is the truth. Even Huan Zhen, who has enmity with Su Wen, couldn't help but show a hint of admiration in his eyes. However, admiration is one thing, but the grudge of losing 3 spirit bones cannot be erased. Ah, it's a pity. I was looking forward to seeing Su Wen compete on stage, Huan Zhen sighed, saying, back when he traveled with the Emperor fighting team, he caused quite a stir in our Elephant City. Emperor Zhu Yi didn't pay much attention to the 2 sentences Huan Zhen said. These were all mentioned in the reports of the 3 major boards of education. Su Wen left a mark in too many cities with his extraordinary feats. However, Huan Zhen hadn't finished speaking. If I remember correctly, Su Wen has mastered too many spirit skills. I can't even classify his most basic spirit skill, he added. Salas and others glanced at each other. Huan Zhen's words were cryptic, but many people present understood them. Even this peak spirit Douluo couldn't classify the many abilities Su Wen displayed, indicating how many self-created spirit skills Su Wen mastered. However, even self-created spirit skills mostly extend from spirit ring spirit skills. The fact that many of Su Wen's spirit skills cannot be classified into fundamental spirit skills only suggests that Su Wen's fundamental spirit skills surpassed his spirit ring's spirit skills. In other words, Su Wen has spirit bones. Huan Zhen stopped speaking, simply hinting at this information. He promised not to disclose it, as agreed with Douluo, but that didn't mean he couldn't give a hint. To be honest, many people present were already aware of Su Wen's information, but they hadn't noticed this point before. Now, prompted by Huan Zhen, they all figured out that Su Wen possessed spirit bones. Emperor Zhu Yi originally didn't pay much attention, but now he frowned and looked at Huan Zhen, feeling somewhat displeased. He caught sight of Prince Zhu's constantly flickering gaze from the corner of his eye and immediately glared at him. Prince Zhu obediently lowered his head, but he was still conflicted about whether to covet Su Wen's spirit bones. Many others also harbored hidden thoughts. Ningfengzi was currently the most troubled. He hadn't expected Huan Zhen to stir up such a commotion. Su Wen indeed had spirit bones, not just one, but many. Apart from those Su Wen might possess on his own, there were also some given by the 7 treasure glazed tile sect. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 167, Just Want to Borrow Something from Senior. Xiaowen's spirit bones was bestowed by my 7 treasure glazed tile sect. It's best for everyone not to harbor any crooked intentions, Ningfengzi spoke up. In any case, at this moment, he also needed to intimidate them first. And what he said was effective indeed. Many people with flickering gazes heard the statement from the 7 treasure glazed tile sect and immediately restrained their thoughts. Seeing this, Gurong's deep voice also sounded. The spirit bone on Xiaowen is given by my 7 treasure glazed tile sect. If it ends up on someone else, it would be stealing our 7 treasure glazed tile sect's spirit bone. Old sword and I will personally take action to recover it. Gurong's words once again intimidated everyone present. At this moment, Huayanzhen was itching with hatred. He really wanted to reveal the news that there were spirit bones on Su Wen that did not belong to the 7 treasure glazed tile sect. Those were supposed. Zhu King had a surprised expression, not expecting Su Wen to have spirit bones on him. However, upon hearing that they were given by the 7 treasure glazed tile sect, he also suppressed his surprise. Su Wen didn't know what was happening in the VIP area, but he felt a malicious intent. This malicious intent came and went quickly, but it still aroused Su Wen's vigilance. Who wants to lay hands on me? He frowned, pondering, and quickly identified the target. Apart from Huayanzhen, there shouldn't be any enemies present who could pose a threat to him. However, with my Phantom Eyes warning ability, coupled with Void Shuttle, I'm not afraid of danger. I just need to keep the danger within manageable limits. Firstly, he needed to clarify the source of the danger. At this moment, Yu Shai and Heng had already taken the stage, drawing lots under the gaze of tens of thousands of spectators. The first round of the preliminary match, Emperor Fighting Team vs Doulou Academy Team. Doulou Academy was just an ordinary High Spirit Master Academy, with 7 Spirit Elders among its participants. 2 for a High Spirit Master Academy, they could still gather Spirit Elders under the age of 25. However, there was a significant difference between Spirit Elders. Some were at level 31, while others were at level 39. Some Spirit Elders have bottom-tier combat strength at the same level, while others are outstanding performers, ranking at the top at the same level. This is the true difference in the Spirit Master competition. After all, most of the participants from High Spirit Master Academies are Spirit Elder teams. Having a Spirit Ancestor among them is considered hopeful for entering the elimination rounds. The Emperor Fighting Team consisted of 3 substitutes plus 4 main team members who hadn't broken through level 40, namely Shimo, Yu Feng, Osler, and Yi Lingling. The strongest didn't make a move, and the team's core, the control-type Spirit Master Du Yan, also didn't take the stage. Even so, the Emperor Fighting Team still maintained a dominant stance against the Xianyuan team. However, the first match also required entertainment value. While competing, both sides also tried to showcase their abilities as much as possible. Whether it was Yu Feng's wind control, Osler's footwork trajectory, or even Shimo's defensive strength, they all became highlights of this battle. This Yu Feng's control over spirit skills is very high. In the audience, a Spirit Master with sharp eyes made a comment about Yu Feng. He was a deacon from a sect composed of wind attribute Spirit Masters. Naturally, he came to watch the battle with the intention of selecting outstanding Spirit Masters and inviting them to join his sect. Probably wouldn't join our Wind Spirit sect. Compared to the members of the Emperor Fighting Team, deacons like him from similar sects were more focused on the Doulou Academy team across from them. The Spirit Master competition is a place for young Spirit Masters to hone their skills and showcase themselves. Here, it's also their collective job interview before graduation. If they are valued by some large sects and receive focused training, their future cultivation will be smooth sailing. Even those players who already belong to sects must demonstrate their potential here to prove themselves. Some players who stay on campus as teachers will also strive for the honor of their school. So, in the Spirit Master competition, every participant is fully focused. The first match lasted for a full 10 minutes. In the end, the Emperor Fighting Team emerged victorious. The next day, Su Wen brought Ye Luochen and Lin Dong to watch. Although nowadays, very few Spirit Masters in the Spirit Master world create their own spirit skills, and even the vast majority of Spirit Masters won't attempt it, it doesn't concern you. Skills, but they have spirit skills bestowed by spirit rings. The level of control and the development approach for spirit skills bestowed by spirit rings are resources you can draw from. Su Wen instructed the two to watch carefully, while he himself diligently analyzed the strategies of the Spirit Masters on the field for developing spirit skills. Of course, Su Wen was more pondering which martial spirit had more replication value and which spirit skills would be more beneficial to him. As the competition continued as usual, Su Wen didn't neglect his own cultivation while watching. On the 5th day of the competition, Su Wen didn't go home. Instead, he followed Tang San halfway. A dangerous aura emanated from Tang San's brow, leaving Su Wen feeling helpless. This was the threat Tang Hao had secretly conveyed to him. However, following Tang San this time, his target wasn't Tang San but Xinian. Sure enough, as Tang San advanced towards Shrek Academy, a figure quietly appeared, pulling him into an illusion. Tang Hao, hiding in the shadows, immediately glared angrily, harboring murderous intent towards this Xinian. He restrained his killing intent, waiting for Tang San to be lured outside the city by Xinian. Once they reached a remote location outside the city, he could ruthlessly crush this Xinian without restraint. However, under the influence of the illusion, Tang San continued walking towards the outskirts of the city, while Xinian remained motionless. This kid actually dares to attack Xinian. Tang Hao narrowed his eyes in the shadows, staring at Su Wen and Xinian in confrontation. However, he only watched for a while before going to find Tang San. The stabbing sensation at his brow finally disappeared, and Su Wen breathed a sigh of relief. On the opposite side, seeing Su Wen's relieved expression, Xinian was puzzled, then became. Was he being looked down upon? Who are you? Why are you interfering with my hunt? Xinian asked coldly, feeling that the soul power directed towards this young man was weaker than his own. Don't worry. I won't disturb your hunting, senior. I just need Angry to borrow something from you before that, Su Wen said lightly. Xinian's voice turned cold. Borrow what? Suddenly, Su Wen launched an attack. In an instant, a wind blade condensed and disappeared from in front of Su Wen, reappearing in front of Xinian. Xinian's body shattered like a mirage, leaving no trace of blood. Puchy. Xinian's figure reappeared, with a wound on his right arm. Young man, you've angered me. 3 yellow, 2 purple, and 2 black spirit rings appeared around Xinian's body. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 168, External Incarnation. Launching the first attack, provoking Xinian, Su Wen ignored the angry Xinian and immediately activated the 5th spirit skill after collecting the blood he needed. Void Shuttle. Su Wen vanished from the street. Xinian's powerful spiritual power swept through the entire street, but he couldn't find Su Wen's figure. Illusion, his. After all, they were able to find his true hiding place and deceive him successfully. After searching for a full 3 minutes, Xinian's expression became extremely ugly. He ran. He could be certain that the young man mastered special type spirit skills and used them directly to escape. Is he crazy, coming to provoke a spirit saint without reason, then angering him and leaving? What's the plan? Xinian couldn't understand. However, he didn't continue to ponder Su Wen's intentions. His main target now was Tang San. Being able to withstand 7 Azure Dreamland, this Tang San must possess a spirit bone, either an attribute-enhancing spiritual attribute spirit bone or a skull spirit bone. Regardless of which one, Xinian would take action. Because, apart from the attraction of spirit bones, Xinian himself enjoyed the process of slaughtering geniuses. Alice, this unlucky thing still went up to die, Su Wen sighed. Su Wen also coveted Xinian's spirit bone, but ultimately couldn't bring himself to act. But he didn't expect this guy to still go after Tang San. Although Tang San doesn't have the King of Hell's token, Tang Hao is always with him now. Fortunately, this spirit bone is still mine. Su Wen looked down at the spirit bone in his hand and smiled. The power of space is a good thing. Once the power of space is thoroughly researched, the means will be incredibly strange. After dealing with Xinian and sensing a wave of soul power fluctuations, Tang Hao looked at the light emitted from Xinian's head and immediately knew something good had burst out. However, before he could take it, after a wave of spatial fluctuations, the spirit bone disappeared. Ah! Su Wen, you've gone too far, Tang Hao angrily exclaimed. As a renowned titled Douluo, this time he was truly angry. Su Wen actually dared to take away the spirit bone. His face darkened, his gaze filled with coldness. Su Wen, you're seeking death. Wisdom Palace. Su Wen took out the spirit bone. It was a skull spirit bone, not complete, and its age didn't seem very high. In the original work, Tang San mentioned it was the left arm bone when he killed Xinian, but when it came to distributing spirit bones after winning the tournament, it became the skull bone. Here, it's treated as the skull bone. This spirit bone is relatively intact, but its age is somewhat low, close to 10,000 years but ultimately not reaching that mark. Although it's a gemstone class primary illusionary realm spirit bone, it would be suitable for Rongrong to use, but it's not the best choice. Let's find a better spirit bone for Rongrong when we have the opportunity in the future, one besides Su Wen, a figure slowly condensed. During his travels, he had replicated various types of clone-type spirit skills and thoroughly researched them. After integrating all these clone-type spirit skills and their strengths, He created this self-created spirit skill of external incarnation. Can create a permanently existing clone, but can temporarily create a real one, capable of integrating spirit bones and casting spirit bone skills. Su Wen integrated this skull spirit bone into the clone and activated the spirit bone skill. The spirit skill of the spirit bone is called illusion space, which can increase the friendly spiritual power by 20% and establish a spiritual network, allowing mutual telepathy and preventing getting lost in illusions. For enemies, it will induce hallucinations, causing directional errors and gradually weakening their spiritual power amidst continuous hallucinatory effects. Undoubtedly, the spirit skill of this spirit bone is quite powerful. Having understood the spirit skill of this spirit bone, Su Wen felt that it was more suitable for Ningrongrong. Let's see how it goes. Maybe I'll perfect the ring replacement method to the point where external spirit rings are no longer needed, and spirit masters can absorb special energy to increase the lifespan on their own. In that case, the lifespan of spirit bones could also be increased as a side effect. However, regardless of whether to let Ningrongrong absorb it or not, Su Wen intended to replicate this spirit skill. Undoubtedly, this is an excellent spirit skill. Especially for Su Wen. The effect of establishing a spiritual network is of great help to my construction of the virtual world. For the past 6 months of traveling, Su Wen hadn't stopped replicating the spirit skills of the spirit bones in his possession. With spirit bones of different ages, progressing gradually, he continuously improved his development of replication spirit skills. With the external incarnation spirit skill, Su Wen became faster at replicating spirit bones. Constantly honing the proficiency of replication spirit bone spirit skills, coupled with the assistance of external incarnation, replicating the spirit skill of this nearly 10,000-year-old skull spirit bone only took 3 hours to complete. To be honest, now that I have mastered this illusion space, Rongrong doesn't need it as much. I should find her a better spirit bone. Su Wen put away the spirit bone. Xinian disappeared without a trace. No one knew where he had gone. But many people knew about Su Wen having a spirit bone as the rumor spread. Su Wen and Ning Fengzi discovered this situation a week ago. That night, Douluo came knocking and gave Hu Ainzhen a beating. Hu Ainzhen quickly claimed he wasn't the one spreading the news. Even though he had been warned while in the VIP seats, many people were intimidated by Ning Fengzi at the time. Moreover, without any grudges against Su Wen, no one would spread rumors or try to destroy someone else's reputation just because they couldn't get their hands on a spirit bone. Therefore, the news of Su Wen having a spirit bone definitely wasn't spread by those who had casually guessed Su Wen had one in the VIP seats. Xiaoan, what have you been up to lately? Douluo found Su Wen and asked him what he had been doing. Su Wen sighed and said, I think I know who spread the rumors. He explained the process of replicating Xinian's martial spirit and then taking away Xinian's spirit bone. You really dare, kid, daring to provoke even Xinian. Douluo was speechless. However, Su Wen had planned everything carefully. With a safety guaranteed by the Void Shuttle spirit skill, Douluo didn't blame him. Instead, he was surprised at Su Wen's ability to transfer the spirit bone to himself across space. It's actually a further development of the illusionary realm. It's just that instead of sending myself into the illusionary realm, I sent that spirit bone, Su Wen casually explained, but achieving this level of development wasn't as easy as one might think. The first round of preliminaries was intense. Dozens to hundreds of matches were held every day. As each round passed, it was nearing its end. Master Huayan, did you take a fall? Why do you look so disheveled? 1. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 169, It's a pity, such a good bee has been wasted. The competition is coming to an end. 7 Azure Dreamland using the 7 gemstone martial spirits. This is Su Wen's biggest gain besides the brutal dream martial spirit of Xinian and its skull spirit bone. Although it's a combination of the same type of martial spirit, Su Wen could achieve it after studying for a while, but with Blue Sunshine Academy developing it, it saved Su Wen a lot of time. Just by taking a glance, replicating the 7 gemstone martial spirits, Su Wen already had the ability to use the 7 Azure Dreamland. The preliminaries lasted for a full month and a half. With the final points settled, surprisingly, Shrek advanced to the next round of the playoffs. With a team that doesn't have a single spirit ancestor, advancing from the preliminaries to the playoffs is quite surprising to all the academies and spectators. It's worth noting that there are only 5 spots available for the final rounds in the Heaven Dao City division. The strength of the Emperor fighting team exceeded everyone's expectations. Even when the captain and vice-captain didn't compete, they still had a lineup consisting of 1 spirit ancestor and 6 spirit elders above level 36. Although they lost 2 matches, the Emperor fighting team's strength was well preserved, and Yu Feng and the other 3 who were trapped at level 39 also gained great experience. Apart from the Emperor fighting team, there are also Blazing and Godwind, 2 powerful academies, both of which only lost 3 matches each. Shrek Academy lost to the Emperor fighting team, Blazing team, Godwind team, and thunderclap team, but achieved an undefeated record otherwise, making them a dark horse one. It's worth noting that both the Elephant Armored Clan and Skywater Academy team have spirit ancestors participating. Skywater team even has 2 spirit ancestors capable of spirit fusion technique. However, they were still hindered by Tang San's Ghost Shadow perplexing track and 8 spider lances, eventually giving him the opportunity for a fatal blow. Skywater Academy's spirit fusion technique lacks a bit in explosiveness but excels in sustainability, which is why Tang San could find opportunities to win. Su Wen watched the entire preliminary matches, and he wasn't surprised by Shrek's victories. After all, with the spirit fusion technique Hell White Tiger, strictly speaking, Shrek is not lacking in burst power at the spirit ancestor level. Moreover, Shrek's lineup is extremely top-notch, not only in the highest spirit ring matching for all members, but also in the outstanding quality of each martial spirit. With proper strategy, victory can always be achieved. The few defeats, except for the Emperor fighting team, were all due to being overwhelmed by absolute strength. The Emperor fighting team is familiar with Shrek's lineup, so they had targeted strategies. Even without Yu Shai and Heng and Du Yan participating, they still secured victory. Of course, even though they stood out from the preliminaries, most people's expectations for Shrek ended there. Because of the team's lack of a spirit ancestor, it is destined to have difficulty advancing further in the subsequent matches. Almost all the teams that made it to the playoffs have a spirit ancestor presiding over them. Moreover, teams like the Godwine team, Blazing team, and Emperor fighting team have more than 1 spirit ancestor. The upcoming playoffs will still be held in the Heavendao Empire. But the venue will change from the Great Spirit Arena in Heavendao City to the Imperial Hunting Grounds. At that time, 10 from the 5 kingdoms and empire will come to compete against your 5 teams. I hope that your 5 academies can excel in the playoffs, so that you can also gain an advantage in the finals. Emperor Zi instructed the 5 advancing academies. The rules of the Spirit Master competition are quite complex. The preliminary rounds were relatively normal, using a round-robin format to determine the top 5 based on points. However, there is no elimination in the subsequent playoffs, it's simply a matter of individual rankings based on personal rankings performance. Subsequently, in the final championship, there are also 3 rounds with passes setups. Out of the 33 teams in the final championship, 3 teams will receive buys in the first round, leaving 18 teams. Then, in the second round, 2 more teams will receive passes, leaving 10 teams. Out of these 10 teams, 2 more will receive passes, determining the final 6. The 3 finalists will then compete for the top 3 spots, advancing to the semifinals advance to the finals, while the remaining 2 teams will engage in group battles to determine the other finalist. Afterward, the actual finals will take place. This kind of tournament structure has left many participating Spirit Masters confused, but they all understand that they must give their all in every battle. However, the leaders of each team have carefully studied the format, so they are not completely fighting blindly. During the competition, Daimube made a breakthrough for Shrek. Instead of accompanying the main force to the Imperial Hunting Grounds, they collectively detoured to Sunset Forest to help Daimube obtain a 4th spirit ring. How about you two? Do you still want to watch the playoffs? Su Wen asked Lindong and Yi Luochen. We do. Their answers were unanimous, as they both wanted to continue watching the grandest competition on the continent. Very well, since both of you will participate in the Spirit Master competition eventually, watching in advance to familiarize yourselves with the process is a good idea, Su Wen said. If he remembered correctly, in the next Spirit Master competition, Spirit Hua would attempt to include sects in the competition. By then, with Lindong and Yi Luochen being part of the team from Wisdom Palace, it would secure 2 spots. With Su Wen and Ningrangrong, they only lacked 3 spots to compete. Imperial Hunting Grounds. Su Wen accompanied Ning Fengzi, bringing along Lindong and Yi Luochen as his companions. Zia Aoun, you've been watching the preliminary matches before. How about it? Did anything strike you? Ningfengzi inquired. Naturally, he was asking if Su Wen had felt any opportunity for a breakthrough. You see, Su Wen is already level 59. Once he breaks through, he'll be at level 60. Obtaining a spirit ring means becoming a spirit emperor. An unprecedented spirit emperor level participant. Moreover, Su Wen is only 16 years old. With the fervor of the Spirit Master competition, once Su Wen demonstrates this astonishing achievement, it will surely shock the entire continent. Clearly, just before the preliminary matches began, he had just reached level 59, one level away from 60, and still facing a major bottleneck. To break through before the final matches means breaking through within 3 months, which is simply unrealistic. However, the scene of a spirit appearing emperor in the final match with 6 spirit rings is too astonishing. Even Ningfengzi, who is usually composed, couldn't help but end up speechless. Uncle Ning, reaching level 60 isn't so easy to achieve. I've been working tirelessly in my cultivation, but it will probably take some time before I can break through. Su Wen has also imagined himself appearing in the final match as a spirit emperor. Unfortunately, it's still a bit too soon. In this competition, you won't see me winning with 6 rings, Su Wen remarked. Currently, Su Wen is starting to lean towards choosing the spirit ring of the Dark Davilga Tiger for his 6th ring too. However, it's unlikely that he will be able to find and successfully hunt the Dark Davilga Tiger's spirit ring in such a short time. Alice, what a waste of such a good opportunity. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170, Salis, it seems you've gone mad. Su Wen basically gave up the possibility of showing Spirit Emperor level cultivation in this Spirit Master competition. So, to make up for my loss this time, let's set a goal before the next Spirit Master competition, to cultivate to Spirit Saint. Su Wen secretly prepared a big move in his heart. 5 years, from level 59 cultivation to level 70, the hope is still quite significant. Of course, the main thing is that before level 70, Su Wen has a threshold, which is to condense the spirit core. There are 2 important factors affecting the quality and quantity of soul power. One is that the Spirit Master himself blindly compresses his soul power while practicing soul power. One factor is the quality of the martial spirit and spirit rings. Many Spirit Douluo trapped at level 89 actually have insufficient quality of soul power, still far from solidifying their soul power, but breaking through to title Douluo inevitably requires crossing this hurdle 1000, it begins to solidify. So, many Spirit Douluo at level 89 may only have soul power quality around 600 or 700, far from the standard for solidification. However, even if solidifying soul power isn't their goal, it's impossible to solely aim for breaking through to level 90. Because although there may be further potential in their soul power, once they break through the threshold of title Douluo, the improvement in martial spirit compatibility along with breakthroughs in other aspects will cause a qualitative change, directly surpassing 1000 soul power. At level 89, the meridians of the Spirit Master's body are already filled with soul power. This breakthrough will truly compress soul power within, without any increase in quantity. The greatest hope lies in qualitative change. However, if one chooses to forcefully break through to title Douluo and triggers an abrupt solidification of soul power, any mistake could lead to immediate death. So, for Spirit Douluo at level 89, the safest breakthrough method is to refine the quality of soul power, first seeking an opportunity for solidification, then smoothly breaking through to level 90. However, for most Spirit Douluo, it's actually quite difficult to refine it. They can only forcefully break through when they see no hope left, causing a qualitative change in soul power directly through the process of solidification. Su Wen naturally hasn't compressed his soul power. However, each additional spirit ring he possesses can be considered as a refinement and compression of his soul power quality. The quality of a Spirit Master's soul power, apart from the cultivation methods of the Spirit Master themselves, is mainly influenced by the quality of the martial spirit and spirit rings. If I truly absorb the spirit ring of the Dark Davilga Tiger for my 6th ring, my soul power quality will undoubtedly greatly improve. Doesn't meet the standard before level 70, Su Wen will still learn from Xiaozan how to actively compress soul power. Level 70 is an important realm in Spirit Master cultivation, and there should be a difference between condensing the Spirit Core before and after level 70. Well, breaking through to Spirit Emperor isn't urgent. Ningfengzi actually knows that this possibility is unlikely. Even if Su Wen really breaks through before the finals, can they just casually attach a 6th spirit ring for the sake of appearances? The 5th ring is a spirit ring of over 40,000 years, the Void Silver Moon Taper. Su Wen's 6th ring should at least have a limit of 70 to 80,000 years. Finding a 70 to 80,000 years old spirit beast is already difficult, let alone finding one suitable for Su Wen. It's simply impossible in the short term. Xiaoan, have you sorted out the communication with Spirit Hall regarding the announcement of establishing Wisdom Palace? Ningfengzi asked. Su Wen shook his head. Support from Spirit Hall as much as possible. I think it's more appropriate to negotiate after I demonstrate my strength, he said. Ningfengzi nodded in agreement with Su Wen's approach. Currently, according to the registration with Spirit Hall, Su Wen is still a spirit ancestor. Even though a 16-year-old spirit ancestor is already remarkable, Shrek Academy just recently had a 17-year-old spirit ancestor. It's impressive but not excessively so. Even with the backing of the 7 treasure glazed tile sect, it's not easy to garner more support from Spirit Hall for Wisdom Palace. Once Su Wen's Spirit King cultivation is exposed, the shuck it brings will be enough for Su Wen to negotiate with Spirit Hall. Salas is ultimately a platinum bishop. You can communicate with him first and have him report the establishment of Wisdom Palace to the Pope, Ningfengzi suggested to Su Wen after some thought. It would be inconvenient if you suddenly announce the establishment of Wisdom Palace during the finals without Spirit Hall being prepared. Alright, Su Wen nodded. It's also time to communicate with this Hall Master again. Salas looked at Su Wen, displeased. Su Wen, coming over to my side like this in such a public setting will raise suspicion. Currently, Su Wen's identity is successfully concealed. Neither the 7 treasure glazed tile sect nor the royal family knows about his official membership in Spirit Hall. Even though Su Wen is now close to both the 7 treasure glazed tile sect and the Crown Prince, and there might be some feelings of disloyalty towards Spirit Hall, Salas doesn't see any problem with it. Because the Crown Prince is also part of Spirit Hall, and he's even the young master of Spirit Hall. Currently, Su Wen's identity status is in the most perfect state for him. Hidden very successfully. However, now that Su Wen has suddenly come to Salas's residence, it's definitely been noticed by many people. After all, if Su Wen is seen as under the Crown Prince's command, it's also considered under the royal family's command, and the royal family's attention to him wouldn't be insignificant. Su Wen going to see someone else might not raise suspicions, but coming to see Salas, a platinum bishop of Spirit Hall, would definitely attract attention. It's likely that Emperor Zuyu has already received intelligence about Su Wen seeking to discuss matters with Salas. Hall Master, I've come this time to discuss important matters. I won't be misunderstood, Su Wen said indifferently. What matter? Salas frowned, asking. Hall Master, I want to establish a Wisdom Palace, and I'm also planning to announce it during the final, Su Wen said. Wisdom Palace, Salas's expression turned grim. Is this about establishing independence? Hall Master, Wisdom Palace already has Elder Ningfengzi, Bone and Sword Douluo as the honorary elders, and the official elders are Poison Douluo and Xiaozan, Su Wen said casually. Upon hearing Su Wen's lineup, Salas couldn't help but gasp. What kind of lineup is this? 3 titled Douluo, and one of them is the head of one of the 3 great sects? How could Sword Douluo, Bone Douluo, and Ningfengzi become honorary elders of your Wisdom Palace? He questioned. Though he asked, Salas actually had a sneaking suspicion that Su Wen wasn't making it up. Hall Master, Wisdom Palace is not an independent force. It's solely for theoretical research, theory dissemination, and benefiting the Spirit Master world. Members of any sect or force can join Wisdom Palace as peripheral members. The information within Wisdom Palace will also be made available, Su Wen explained. Wow, Salas gasped, looking at Su Wen with shock. Are you insane? If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 171, There is Only One Truth. Su Wen was able to get in touch with 3 titled Doulous, leaving Salas speechless, and even fatally beginning to give up on preventing Su Wen from establishing a power. However, as Su Wen revealed the goals of the Wisdom Palace, Salas was immediately shocked. This so-called goal of benefiting the Spirit Master world is lofty, but it's competing with the Spirit Hall. How bold of you! Salas glared angrily at Su Wen. Su Wen, do you know what you're doing? One, I know. I just hope that the theories on this continent can be accessible to all spirit masters, so they can access the theoretical knowledge needed for their cultivation without having to join various factions, Su Wen said calmly. It's impossible, do you know that? Impossible, Salas snorted coldly, showing a disappointed attitude towards Su Wen. Su Wen, I always thought you were smart, but you made such a foolish choice, don't you know? What you're talking about will never be achieved. Who doesn't know that cultivation requires sufficient theoretical guidance, but how many people are truly willing to learn? Even if cultivation can make one stronger, how many are really willing to put in the effort for it? Moreover, they have to learn a lot of theories for so-called martial spirit cultivation. Let me tell you, even if they know the benefits of learning, they might not even try to get involved. The vast majority of spirit masters on this continent might not even know the importance of theory for martial spirit cultivation. No matter how you establish your wisdom palace, the vast majority of spirit masters won't know about its existence, nor what joining it can offer them. Salas's words left Su Wen in silence. Is that so? Indeed, it was true. Reality is not like imagination. Many things cannot go entirely according to one's wishes. There will always be gaps between the rich and the poor, gaps in cognition, and information gaps that can never be fully eliminated. However, Su Wen's goal is to break the barriers of knowledge, not to ensure that all spirit masters transform theory into their own power. He will provide all spirit masters with access to knowledge. But whether they choose to learn, whether they choose to accept it, is not something Su Wen will interfere with. There will always be ambitious spirit masters, and there will always be spirit masters with special talents who find their cultivation path difficult due to various personal shortcomings. These are the true targets of the Wisdom Palace's salvation. For example, Lin Dong. I just need to ensure that ambitious spirit masters have access to spirit master cultivation knowledge. The rest is not my concern, Su Wen said calmly. To be honest, from the moment the idea of establishing the Wisdom Palace emerged, Su Wen's goal was to harvest faith. Therefore, he naturally maintained an indifferent attitude. This also allowed him to avoid facing too many unnecessary worries. Additionally, besides poison Douluo and the 7 treasure glazed tile sect, I have also gained the Crown Prince's approval, Su Wen said to Salas. He did not show any meaningful expression, just a calm demeanor. However, it was precisely this that made Salas even more uncertain and suspicious. The Crown Prince's approval? What did Su Wen mean by this? Was he simply trying to convey that he had the support of the Heaven Dao imperial family? Or did he know the Crown Prince's true identity, which led him to say this? Under normal circumstances, Salas wouldn't think this way, but from the moment Su Wen entered his room today, every word and every revelation had been methodically presented. Not listing the Crown Prince alongside the 3 titled Douluo and Ningfengzi, couldn't there be some Salas, by nature suspicious? The more he thought about it, the more he believed it was highly possible that Su Wen already knew the Crown Prince's identity. Hall Master, you can report it. After all, my establishment of the Wisdom Palace isn't meant to make enemies with any power. I think Spirit Hall would be quite willing to invest in an entity like the Wisdom Palace, Su Wen said. Salas squinted his eyes, staring hard at Su Wen, as if trying to figure out what Su Wen was really thinking. Unfortunately, he couldn't discern anything. Your Wisdom Palace is quite interesting, he finally commented. Allowing members of various factions to join, access the information within the Wisdom Palace, and even participate in its various research projects. It was even more open than Spirit Hall. You can establish the Wisdom Palace. I will also report it to the Pope. As for obtaining the support of Spirit Hall as you mentioned, I will report it truthfully. How to decide will be up to the Pope, Su Wen agreed and said, I know, but I believe the Pope will likely agree to support it, and the support won't be insignificant. Salas didn't understand where Su Wen's confidence came from. By the way, Hall Master, there's something I'd like to ask you. What is it? Salas glanced at Su Wen impatiently. Research institutions, the Martial Spirit Hall. Salas frowned, his expression growing increasingly impatient. Don't introduce these useless things to me. Su Wen smiled and said, actually, I also want to establish a 4th hall, the Spirit Tool Hall. Spirit Tool Hall. Salas realized the aim of Su Wen's proposed Spirit Tool Hall. The technology of spirit tools has long been lost. Establishing a Spirit Tool Hall is useless. Besides, compared to the research directions of the 3 existing halls of the Wisdom Palace, spirit tools are entirely unworthy. Su Wen, however, did not agree with Salas's view. Spirit tools not worthy? Hallmaster, spirit tools may indeed be external objects with limited effects, but their value cannot be denied. As far as I know, spirit tools have a variety of effects. There are auxiliary types, and there are even attack, defense, and control types. These spirit tools can provide auxiliary spirit masters with combat means, give attack-type spirit masters additional defense options, provide defense-type spirit masters with offensive capabilities, and enable control-type spirit masters to unleash powerful attacks. Su Wen's words left Salas silent. It's undeniable that you're right, but the technology of spirit tools has been lost on the continent. What you're talking about is only an ideal and cannot be realized. Indeed, spirit tools are scarce. Or rather, very rare. However, they are also quite abnormal. Because most of the spirit tools on the continent are storage spirit tools. Any spirit tools with attack or defense capabilities have been taken by the 7 treasure glazed tile sect. Su Wen suspected this was intentional. After all, spirit tools with attack or defense capabilities are significant for 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda spirit masters members with a set. This would significantly enhance the strength of the 7 treasure glazed tile sect. Therefore, the types of spirit tools have been restricted. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 172, How Grandmaster's Audacity Was Cultivated. Whether spirit tools bring significant enhancement to other spirit masters or other sects is unclear, but for the 7 treasure glazed tile sect, it's definitely a qualitative leap. Therefore, someone is controlling the outflow of spirit tools. It must be said that Su Wen's idea is somewhat conspiratorial too. Could Spirit Hall really be completely unaware of the existence of the Sun-Moon continent? Su Wen sincerely doubted it. Spirit Hall has the capability to mount a large-scale invasion of Sea God Island, so they absolutely have the ability to cross the ocean and reach the Sun-Moon continent. Hallmaster, I also know that spirit tool technology has been lost on the continent, but I believe Spirit Hall should have relevant research materials. I hope to receive support in this regard and ask Hallmaster to report my request to the Pope, Su Wen said. Salas reluctantly agreed. Since it had to be reported anyway, Su Wen's request was considered reasonable. I don't need to conceal the purpose of my visit to Hallmaster this time, so my identity shouldn't be suspected. Hallmaster, you can rest assured, Su Wen said before leaving Salas's residence. Soon after, Crown Prince coincidentally came to visit him. Xiaoan, where did you go? I've been waiting for you here for a long time, Zhu King asked, puzzled. Su Wen said, regarding the matter of the Wisdom Palace, I've had a preliminary discussion with Bishop Salas and have gained his initial approval. I plan to wait until we reach Spirit City for the final round of the tournament. By then, when I reveal my last trump card, obtaining support from Spirit Hall won't be a problem anymore. Zhu King didn't show much excitement or joy on his face. Instead, he forced a smile. On the surface, he was Crown Prince, so he shouldn't be pleased with Su Wen's closeness to the Wisdom Palace and Spirit Hall. Xiaoan, on behalf of myself, I congratulate you on the eminent fame of your Wisdom Palace, he said, clasping his hands together and extending them toward Su Wen. Then, he appeared curious. By the way, Xiaoan, what exactly is your last trump card? The true level of Su Wen's soul power was only known to those who accompanied him on his expeditions to obtain spirit rings. Apart from Ning Fengzi and Sword Douluo, no one else was aware of it. Zhu King naturally included himself in this. While Ning Fengzi was his teacher, he wouldn't tell him everything either. You'll find out when the time comes, Brother Zhu, Su Wen replied evasively. Alright, I'm looking forward to your so-called trump card. Without waiting for too long, Zhu King left Su Wen's tent after completing his task and returned to Emperor Zhu Yi's main tent. Father, Xiaoan's actions at this time were for the sake of the Wisdom Palace. Zhu King briefly described Su Wen's establishment of the Wisdom Palace. Emperor Zhu Yi's eyes flashed with brilliance. While he admired Su Wen's ambition, he also pondered the advantages and disadvantages of Su Wen's actions for the royal family. Father, as the first supporters and those who adapt to change, if Su Wen's establishment of the Wisdom Palace succeeds, although it will break the barriers of knowledge and change the continent's landscape, as long as we adapt to this change and seize the key points of the change as soon as possible, the position of the royal family will remain unshakable. Even more so, Zhu King said. Emperor Zhu listened to Zhu King's analysis and quietly slowly, indicating his approval. No matter how the landscape of the continent changes, there will always be beneficiaries. Those who can adapt to the trend are often the greatest beneficiaries. After seeing off Crown Prince and assisting him in completing Emperor Zhu Yi's task, Su Wen repeatedly went over the preparations for the Wisdom Palace in his mind. Soliciting support from Spirit Hall is necessary. With the assistance of Spirit Hall, the construction of the Wisdom Palace on the continent will be much easier. Su Wen pondered the value he held for Spirit Hall. First and foremost was the support from Jinring Su's side, which provided him with the greatest confidence in seeking support from Spirit Hall. However, at the same time, Jinring Su could be both his support and his obstacle. Because Bibi Dong had long gone mad, it was unknown whether she would obstruct him because of Jinring Su. It's best not to predict the decisions of someone whose mind is unclear. Besides Jinring Su's influence, the fundamental reason Su Wen can obtain the greatest support from Spirit Hall is his talent. At the age of 16, becoming a Spirit King is enough to demonstrate my talent. While my soul power level of 59 doesn't need to be fully exposed, the unconventional spirit rings in yellow, purple, and black must be showcased. On the side of Spirit Hall, it's best not to passively wait for their decision. As Su Wen contemplated, someone unexpectedly arrived outside his tent. Su Wen, may I come in? A deep voice of a middle-aged man came from outside. Grandmaster. Su Wen was surprised that the other party had come to talk to him. It's worth noting that even after the match between the Shrek team and the Emperor fighting team in Suachuo City, when Qin Ming hosted a banquet for both teams and their teachers, Grandmaster and Su Wen never exchanged words. Come in. Grandmaster entered the tent and observed Su Wen sitting cross-legged, speculating that he had just been practicing cultivation. I wonder what brings Grandmaster here, Su Wen asked casually, not even bothering to stand up. Grandmaster's expression remained unchanged. He also had a request this time, so he didn't harbor any dissatisfaction with Su Wen's attitude. Honest, I never imagined you could achieve what you have today, he sighed and continued. Now I have to admit, I misjudged you in the past. If Grandmaster only came to say this, you can leave. I still need to cultivate, Su Wen replied. Grandmaster showed no signs of embarrassment and continued, I would like to ask you about your insights into soul power cultivation. I know this may seem a bit abrupt, but as a scholar, I've been puzzled by your situation and have come to seek advice. Su Wen's expression turned strange as he looked at Grandmaster, as if he were observing some creature. He sure has thick skin. Grandmaster, do you not remember that we faced life and death outside Suachuo City over a year ago? Su Wen asked. With his right hand behind his back, Grandmaster admitted, during that time, I didn't believe that you and Douluo did anything wrong. As you both said, it's only natural for spirit masters to hunt spirit beasts. It's just that Xiao Wu was our student, a companion of Xiaozhen and the others, so we stood rare on opposite sides. But in the end, nothing happened to Xiao Wu. Su Wen once again marveled at Grandmaster's tolerance. You Xia gang, you may not have understood the situation. The conflict between us doesn't stem from your initial rejection of me, nor does it lie in the confrontation outside Suachuo City all those years ago. Oh? Then what is it about? Grandmaster asked, his expression stiff. Su Wen looked at the rigid-faced Grandmaster and said slowly, the conflict between us stems from Tang San. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 173, Tang Hao, I will kill you. You are Tang San's teacher, so you are also my enemy, Su Wen declared. Grandmaster's expression was one of astonishment, completely not expecting this response. The conflict between them, it turned out, was simply because Yu Xiaogang was Tang San's teacher? Xiaozhen shouldn't have any connection with you, right? Even back in Nuoding City, there was no conflict between you and him, Grandmaster puzzled. Jealousy? This was the first reason that popped into Grandmaster's mind. No, my hatred for him has been set since before his birth. Su Wen squinted his eyes, a sense of killing intent pervading through. I know you are also lurking in the shadows. Just wait, Tang Hao, I will kill you. He spoke to the air, his words filled with killing intent. Even though he was only at the 59th level, he had the confidence to challenge Tang Hao. The sting and pain at his brow kept him vigilant, ready to unleash his fifth spirit skill to escape at any moment. However, Tang Hao dared not make a move either. There were too many titled Douluo gathered in the Imperial hunting grounds now. Tang Hao didn't even dare to use soul power to oppress Su Wen, only harboring murderous intent towards him. Even the locked-on killing intent couldn't be activated. At this moment, Grandmaster was also shocked. He didn't understand why Su Wen would have a feud with Tang Hao. You come from New Moon Village, I understand. Tang Hao, shrouded in a black robe, had entered the tent at some point. As long as you know. Regardless of the reason, my parents died because of you, and you must pay the price, Su Wen said calmly, as if you were not afraid of Tang Hao at all. Your whole life is a mistake, a tragedy. You've implicated so many people. If I were you, I wouldn't have the face to blame others or even dare to seek revenge. Tang Hao, shrouded in black, couldn't be seen clearly, but his heavy breathing was audible, showing he was angered by Su Wen's words. You can lay hands on me, but Grandpa Doulou will definitely kill Tang San. And as for the Clear Sky sect, I believe Grandpa Doulou can make sure it has no future. Su Wen remained calm. Furthermore, after you lay hands on me, I can guarantee you won't be able to leave the Imperial hunting grounds. I'll wait for you to break through to title Douluo. When that time comes, I'll unleash all my strength. If you can't kill me, I'll kill you. Tang Hao took a deep breath and left Su Wen's tent. Grandmaster stood still at that moment, like a clown, not knowing the significance of his presence there. Also, I hope Grandmaster, you won't refer to yourself as Grandmaster in the future. I believe you understand the weight of the title Grandmaster and the level of your theoretical achievements. Don't mislead the Spirit Masters in the Spirit Master world anymore. Su Wen issued the eviction order while also advising Yu Xiaogang. A surge of soul power erupted, and Yu Xiaogang's figure kept retreating, directly backing out of the tent. He turned around with an unpleasant expression and left. This is outrageous. Inside the Shrek team's tent, Liu Erlong's voice sounded out. Upon hearing that Yu Xiaogang had been rudely expelled by Su Wen, she erupted in anger. Even Flender, usually the peacemaker, didn't attempt to calm Liu Erlong down. He wore a displeased expression, equally discontent with Su Wen's actions. Tang San's gaze turned icy. Seeing Su Wen treat his teacher like this, he felt a murderous intent rising. Su Wen, you have chosen the path of death? Yu Xiaogang sighed. Well, it doesn't matter. After all, my purpose this time involves his fundamental interests. In his words, he was prying into other secrets, so being kicked out was actually normal. How's grievances to the Shrek side? Su Wen ignored Shrek's reaction and didn't bother to consider it. After driving Grandmaster away, he continued to cultivate. Although he had shown some toughness today, ultimately, it relied on his means of survival and the factors restraining Tang Hao. This was not his own strength, nor was it entirely safe. Even though he had vented and openly revealed his hatred in front of his enemy, Su Wen still felt somewhat frustrated too. It won't be long, very soon. It won't take 10 years, and I'll have the ability to kill you. Su Wen adjusted his mood and began to ponder the details of constructing the virtual world, using the process of contemplation to engage in alternative simulation, accelerating his soul power cultivation. If during the preliminaries, each team was still preserving their strength, then as the elimination rounds began, each team would no longer hold back their power. The defeats of Skywater Academy and Elephant Armored Academy were enough to make people wary. Being taken advantage of by a team without a spirit ancestor was the most frustrating. While the Skywater team wasn't careless enough to be caught off guard without even having the chance to use the spirit fusion technique, they still fell behind significantly in the early stages of the battle against the Shrek team due to some negligence. Even though they eventually used the spirit fusion technique, the spirit fusion technique of Shui Binger and Shui Yuir from Skywater Academy differs from Hell White Tiger and doesn't possess overwhelming power. It mainly manifests as powerful group attacks with a wide range, which can be evaded. Although Tang San didn't have the ability to resist ice, the quality of the 8 spider lances far surpassed that of Blue Silver Grass. Coupled with his agility and the fusion with the Ghost Shadow perplexing track, he managed to hold on under this spirit fusion technique. Of course, apart from the examples of being taken advantage of, the tournament's format is also an important factor that prevents major teams from holding back their strength during the elimination rounds. The rankings in the elimination rounds are preparation for the final championship match, and securing a good ranking will greatly benefit the subsequent matches. Sunflower Martial Spirit, capable of replication, Su Wen became interested in a student's martial spirit. In addition, there are many martial spirits that have piqued Su Wen's interest. The biggest difference between the elimination rounds and the preliminaries is the maximum display of individual spirit master strength. Each student competes in one-on-one battles, showcasing the spirit master's abilities to the fullest. This is also the knowledge and experience that Su Wen has absorbed and learned from. Lindong and Yi Luchen also gained a lot in the elimination rounds. Especially Lindong, whose martial spirit mutated into the 5 elements attribute. Although the attributes are poor, the development and application of various spirit skills in this battle have significant reference value for him lasted for a month. Indeed, merely watching is not at all stimulating. Su Wen opened his eyes and sighed. Although he felt he had gained quite a bit, his soul power was still stuck at a bottleneck. With just one step away from reaching level 60, Su Wen also wished to break through under the pressure of the tournament. Unfortunately, he practiced too quickly, and his strength was too strong, so there was not even a bit of pressure. Perhaps this is the price of genius. At the end of the elimination rounds, Emperor Zuyu once again gave his final assessment of the month-long competition. Su Wen noticed an unfriendly gaze in the crowd. Tang San approached slowly. Su Wen, you shouldn't disrespect my teacher just because your soul power level is high. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 174, Mocking Shrek. Hearing Tang San's childish remarks, Su Wen sneered and didn't even want to respond. Su Wen's attitude made Tang San very. Su Wen, no matter what opportunities you've had that gave you your current strength, that doesn't give you the right to look down on others. Compared to the time at Nuoding Academy when Su Wen silently trained, was so quiet that he had no presence, and neither made friends nor enemies, Tang San deeply felt the changes in Su Wen. Perhaps this is the mental shift brought about by different talents. Even now, Tang San couldn't help but feel a little insecure when facing Su Wen, because Su Wen's displayed abilities were too strong and his potential too great. However, Tang San knew his own talent and that his strengths would come into play later on. My second martial spirit is the Clear Sky Hammer. Once I add spirit rings to it, all of them being 10,000-year-old spirit rings, my strength will surpass any spirit master on the continent. As Tang San thought this, his gaze became sharper. No, not just in the future. Su Wen, I haven't had the chance to fight you before. I hope I can face you in the upcoming finals. Then, I'll show you my true strength. 3 Su Wen's disrespect towards Yu Zhiagang made Tang San determined to use his ultimate move in the upcoming finals. Anytime, Su Wen said indifferently. He kindly reminded, of course, the prerequisite is that you all manage to last until the match against me. The Spirit Master competition's rules are quite complex, with passes in the first 3 rounds of the finals. The 3 passes in the first 3 rounds are not entirely dependent on drawing lots. Wen's Emperor Fighting Team 2 will participate in the second round. For Tang San to face Su Wen again, Shrek must first make it into the top 18 in the finals. In the original work, this wouldn't be difficult. After all, with the configuration of the entire team being spirit ancestors, they were essentially set to be runners-up. But now it's different. Without the immortal grasses, Shrek's members have much lower soul power levels. Daimyo Bei barely broke through level 40 and gained his 4th spirit skill. Aside from Daimyo Bei, only Tang San can carry the team, but his ability to do so is limited. In the preliminary and advancement matches, his abilities have already been fully displayed and thoroughly analyzed. Opponents have started devising targeted tactics against him, so his effectiveness in the finals will only diminish. Hearing Su Wen's words, Tang San's face grew heavy. Indeed, with the current Shrek team, they would need luck just to make it to the second round. Even if they make it to the top 18 and enter the second round, can they really draw the Emperor Fighting Team 2? It's unlikely. To increase competitiveness, there are some manipulations in the drawing process. In the first round, the 30 teams are divided so that the 15 teams from each empire face the 15 teams from the other empire. In other words, in the first round of the competition, the 15 teams from Heaven Dao Empire will not compete against each other but will face the 15 teams from Starluo Empire one by one. Even though it's known that there are implicit agreements in the drawing process, no one explains or questions it. Because the 15 teams from the same empire have already fought in the advancement matches, both sides look forward to the freshness and the deterrence against the rival empire. In the second round, although there are no such implicit methods, it is still not entirely random. There is still a high probability that it will be a confrontation between Heaven Dao Empire and Starluo Empire. The Emperor Fighting Team 2 will likely face a team from Starluo Empire, and similarly, the favored Starluo Empire team will face a team from Heaven Dao Empire. In other words, even if Shrek team enters the second round, the chances of encountering Emperor Fighting Team 2 are still very small. By the third round, only 10 teams remain. Can Shrek's strength secure them a spot among these 10 teams? This is why Tang San remained silent. Su Wen's remarks were not just a reminder but also a mockery. We, Shrek, will make it to the third round, not just the third round, we'll even reach the top 6 and the top 3. If it weren't for our age, why would we be afraid of you? In the next competition, we'll be strong enough to compete for the championship. Ma Hongjin and others walked over, with Ma Hongjin speaking loudly. After Daimyo Bei broke through to Spirit Ancestor, Shrek's performance in the advancement matches was quite impressive. They were not ranked at the bottom among the 15 teams, instead, their overall ranking reached 8th place. With such a level of performance despite their lower soul power, Ma Hongjin and the others were quite proud. If it weren't for their age, they believed they could dominate an era. Currently, in the Shrek team, aside from Daimyo Bei, Oscar, and Tai Long, the other 4 members are spirit elders, and all of they are under 15 years old, meaning they can still participate in 2 more Spirit Master competitions. After 10 years, even those with soul power below level 35 now would be able to rise above level 45 or even level 50. Their arrogance still has its basis. However, Su Wen sneered coldly. Forget about the next competition. You might not know about the lineup of the Spirit Hall team. At worst, they have a Spirit King. Do you think we're afraid of them? Ma Hongjin, in a haughty manner, was very displeased. What's the big deal about having a Spirit King? This year's Spirit Hall team has 3 Spirit Kings. If my information is correct, 2 of them also possess the Spirit Fusion technique, Su Wen said calmly. He looked at Ma Hongjin and glanced at the Shrek members, asking, do you still think it's nothing? Ma Hongjin's neck turned a deep red. With such a lineup, he indeed didn't dare to boast any further. Oh my. 3 Spirit Kings, and 2 of them possess the Spirit Fusion technique? Such a lineup. Not only Shrek but even the other Spirit Masters watching from the surrounding teams were shocked. They all had some knowledge about the absurd lineup of Spirit Hall for this year's Spirit Master competition through various channels. But they didn't expect it to be this outrageous. The fact that there are 3 Spirit Kings was something some academies had already gathered. However, no one anticipated that 2 of these 3 Spirit Kings could perform the Spirit Fusion technique. Performing the Spirit Fusion technique might not be able to rival a Spirit Saint, but they could definitely contend with and even defeat most Spirit Emperors. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 175 You Make Us Look Stupid. Additionally, your martial spirit seems to have issues. Whether you can maintain your current training pace until the next Spirit Master competition is something you need to be aware of. Ma Hongjin's eyes widened as he looked at Su Wen in shock. Su Wen could actually see the problem with his martial spirit? Isn't it obvious that your martial spirit has issues just by looking at it? Su Wen said matter-of-factly. This made the surrounding Spirit Masters' faces darken. None of them had noticed any issues with Ma Hongjin's martial spirit. If there is an issue, it's probably because it's too powerful, and the flames are too difficult to deal with. And you, the lazy genius food Spirit Master, I don't know how Shrek was lucky enough to recruit you, but obviously Shrek hasn't fully tapped into your potential, Su Wen said, looking at Oscar. He didn't give Shrek's group much time to be angry, continuing to address the many Spirit Masters around him. It's not just them. Anyone here who is dissatisfied with their current training situation or confused about their martial spirit can come to me. I'm just a humble scholar who can help you solve your problems. Of course, if you can't find me, you can also join the Wisdom Palace I've established to find answers. 3 Everyone? Everyone was bewildered. They glanced at the backs of the Shrek group's uniforms and then at Su Wen. Hey, buddy, you're making Shrek's school uniform advertisement look stupid like this. You can think of Wisdom Palace as an academy. You can enter it to gain knowledge without having to give anything or take any responsibility. Su Wen introduced the Wisdom Palace to the many talented Spirit Masters. Unfortunately, Su Wen's introduction now seemed quite pale and powerless. Except for those who knew him, the other Spirit Masters completely ignored it. Knowledge? What use does a Spirit Master have for knowledge? Just like Spirit Masters don't need to use their brains in battles, why should they bother learning knowledge for training? Su Wen wasn't disappointed with the effect of his self-promotion. Anyway, it was just a casual mention, planting a seed in their minds for now. It wouldn't take long before the seed would bloom and bear fruit in Spirit City. Due to Tang San's identity not being exposed, the large group traveling to Spirit City did not encounter any so-called assassination attempts. Spirit City. The Palace of the Pope. Yu Zhigang looked at Bibi Dong, who was seated in the Pope's position, her face still beautiful but now exuding even more dignity and nobility. His emotions were in turmoil. Bibi Dong, you are still as beautiful as before, Yu Zhigang said. Bibi Dong's gaze was cold and fierce, but there was also a hint of gentleness in it. She looked at Yu Zhigang, and upon hearing his words, her icy heart softened slightly. However, she forced herself to maintain a cold attitude towards Yu Zhigang. As far as she knew, this Yu Zhigang had actually brought Shrek Academy to join the Blue Tyrant Academy, joining the academy founded by Liu Erlong, the object of his forbidden love. Elder Yu, I wonder what important matter brings you to see me with the Elder's Token, she said coldly. Although you hold the Elder's Token, it does not mean you can freely enter and exit my Pope's palace. Too, upon hearing Bibi Dong's address to him, Yu Zhiagang's gaze dimmed. He knew that Bibi Dong was distancing herself from him. It wasn't Zhiagang or any other term, but Elder Yu, what a distant title it was. Your Majesty, I have come this time to seek advice on a matter. Do you, the esteemed Grandmaster, still have anything you don't understand? Bibi Dong mocked. The title of Grandmaster resonated throughout the continent, but only those who truly studied the theory knew how much of it was actually invalid. And Bibi Dong was one of those who knew. In fact, Bibi Dong's theoretical level surpassed that of the so-called Grandmaster Yu Zhiagang. However, she never bothered to summarize the 10 core competencies or use Spirit Hall's channels to publish any theories. Yu Zhiagang remained silent for a moment before saying, Su Wen's situation should be on file at Spirit Hall. I want to see his Spirit Master registration information. Bibi Dong frowned. While Spirit Hall does keep records of Spirit Masters, ultimately, it's considered the Spirit Master's privacy. Elder Yu, your request is somewhat inappropriate, she replied. As the holder of the Elder's Token, am I not even allowed to view the information of an ordinary Spirit Master? Yu Zhiagang took out the Elder's Token and asked. Bibi Dong fell silent. Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo beside her felt disgusted. Where did this Yu Zhiagang get the Elder's Token from? He's not worthy of this token at all. Even when the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile sect provided Su Wen's information in the past, it was done with the blessing of the Elder's Token, and they also paid additional costs. Is Yu Zhiagang trying to freeload with just an Elder's Token? Moreover, from Yu Zhiagang's words, it seemed he wanted comprehensive information about Su Wen. Even if they didn't know Su Wen's true value, they found it repulsive. The Elder's Token grants privileges, but it doesn't mean you can use it indiscriminately. You can have the authority of an honorary elder, but each use should entail some form of repayment to Spirit Hall, right? Otherwise, what's the point of issuing this token? The top 3 sects all adhere to basic principles. They would pay a price for using the Elder's Token's authority within Spirit Hall, rather than questioning the usefulness of the token under the guise of acting as an honorary elder. Bibi Dong remained silent for a long time before speaking slowly. Alright, is there anything else? If not, Elder Yu can take Su Wen's information and leave. Clearly, she was also infuriated by Yu Zhiagang's actions. I have one more thing, it's personal and may also involve Your Majesty's cultivation privacy. Asking about privacy? If it weren't for Pope not signaling anything and Yu Zhiagang holding the Elder's Token, Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo would have thrown out this shameless guy long ago. Go on, I want to know how to simultaneously attach spirit rings to twin martial spirits. Oh, Bibi Dong's slender eyes narrowed slightly. If I understand correctly, you have a disciple named Tang San, and you are preparing for him? Yes, Yu Zhiagang admitted. He knew Bibi Dong also had some knowledge of theory, and from Tang San's innate full soul power and his blue-silver grass martial spirit, it could be inferred that Tang San had twin martial spirits. As for why Bibi Dong knew he had a disciple named Tang San and even investigated Tang San's information, he subconsciously avoided thinking about it. No techniques needed, just forcibly absorb them. If you don't want your disciple to have problems, I advise you not to let him cultivate a second martial spirit. Bibi Dong snorted coldly. Then, without giving Yu Zhiagang a chance, she had Chrysanthemum and Ghost Douluo escort him out. Forcibly absorb? Yu Zhiagang frowned, very dissatisfied with Bibi Dong's answer. Even if it was just a perfunctory response, it shouldn't be like this, right? If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.